Right.
Like, no, I'll just go outside. So that's where the photography all took off.
The thing that I learned, and I'm grateful for the technology, is all the people that can't get out. Maybe they are taking care of their elderly parent, or they themselves are disabled or challenged in some way. Or they live just so far away from everybody that they can go out to the backyard, and they probably have dark skies, which is cool, but
Yeah, well, yeah, it's nice. Well, for our astronomy club, for instance, being able to have David join us from Arizona, it's
awesome.
It's awesome. I hope more of our membership actually appreciates it, because we had a lot in the WAS membership that wanted to be back together and wouldn't join a virtual meeting anymore. They wouldn't join until we got back together. And it's like, well, there is an advantage to meeting online.
Yeah.
You've got to reach with more people. If I beg David Eicher, could you give us a talk on something? And
Sure.
If Dave actually says yes, he can do it from the same location. We don't have to fly him out, pay his exorbitant fee for hotel stay and everything else that he would be able to demand. Scott, Carol, if you came out, we can we can still arrange for a speaker's fee, which we did for Kareem. My good friend gave a talk last night for us, but we wouldn't have to go through that other expense. So there's a couple of organizations that I may be hitting all of you all up for talks, but I'll get back with you on that. Our membership, I think, it'd be more than an honor to have any of you all speak. David, you've spoken for us already.
Yes.
For most of these lowbrows was and now the RASC, but I think I'll let them handle getting talent for that. So with that, I'm going to go on mute because I see it's 7:03 when this whole thing's supposed to be starting by now, right?
We are started.
Okay.
We're live.
Oh, and there's the
right now.
end of the hour right there. Astropalooza.
So, yeah, but it's great to see all of you guys again. And I probably should just go ahead and get started here. Here we go.
About 4,400 light years away, in the constellation Sextans, there's an extraordinary binary system that pairs a rapidly spinning neutron star, or pulsar, with a star about 1/5 the mass of the Sun. Thanks to its rapid rotation and intense magnetic field, the pulsar produces a strong radio signal, which is how astronomers first discovered it. Many similar binaries are known. What's strange about this one is that sometimes the radio beacon just disappears. Then the system lights up in X-rays and gamma rays. Here's what researchers think may be happening. The two stars orbit so closely that gas from the Sun-like star overflows and a stream falls toward the pulsar, but the pulsar produces an outflow of its own. Its spin and magnetic field accelerate charged particles to near the speed of light, creating a high-energy wind. During the radio phase, this pulsar wind easily holds back the gas stream. Now and then, and for reasons as yet unknown, the companion stream surges, pushing close enough to the pulsar that it collects into a disk. Once in the disk, the gas gradually spirals toward the neutron star. At an altitude of about 50 miles, the gas chokes off the pulsar wind, unleashing the full torrent of the companion's gas stream. Gas reaching closest to the neutron star becomes transformed into dual particle jets, which fire out of the disk in opposite directions at nearly light speed. Gamma rays observed by NASA's Fermi satellite may arise along the edge of the jet, while enhanced X-ray emission observed by other spacecraft may come from shockwaves rocking the inner accretion disk. Eventually, and for reasons not understood, the companion's flow ebbs. The pulsar wind again becomes dominant, choking off the flow and blowing away the accretion disk. The pulsar flips back to its radio-emitting mode. Astronomers think this system represents a rare glimpse of a relatively brief phase. Mass transfer from a companion can rejuvenate an old, slow pulsar, spinning it up to tens of thousands of RPM. We may be seeing a system where this phase is on the verge of ending. When it does, the pulsar's wind will erode what's left of its companion until only the pulsar remains. Although astronomers have studied the system in both low and high energy states, they haven't yet observed this transformation in progress. Now, they are watching closely, waiting to document the next dramatic change of this exceptional binary.
Scotty, we can't hear you.
I think your mic's on.
That's because I got my lips sealed here.
Now
You're
we hear
speaking
you.
at a frequency we
Did you
can't
guys
hear.
get all the hand sign signals and everything? I said hello. It's the 108th Global Star Party, and we're happy to have everyone here. We've got a great lineup of speakers. Of course, starting out with David Levy. We've got the Astronomically with the president, Carol Lorge here. David Eicher will be on. A lot more to come, and I think you're going to really enjoy this. The idea of the theme of stellar winds really had me thinking a lot about how our solar system interacts with the sun, and how all these high-speed particles are flowing through our solar system. I don't remember the numbers, but it's incredible speeds, and it just makes me think that these the stellar winds perhaps are kind of the life's blood of our solar system, and that that perhaps in tight like the visualization we just saw, which was an amazing visualization. It makes me wonder, what that does in its surrounding stellar neighborhood. So I think that the study of stellar winds is fascinating, and so I just wanted to bring some focus on that. The 108th Global Star Party was delayed by 1 week after Thanksgiving. People just, we were still kind of recuperating a little bit. That may happen again after Christmas, so, and the New Year's. So it's hard to tell at this point, but I would predict that could happen, where we'll skip a week. But if we do, don't worry, we'll be back. And but so far, I've got the next Global Star Party kind of already tentatively planned for next Tuesday. So let's move on now to David Levy. And David, thanks for coming on to Global Star Party.
Thank you so much, Scotty. I've been kind of a little bit lazy lately. And I knew that we had the start party today. And about 15 minutes ago, I thought I was watching Matlock on television. I thought, oh, start party. And I ran off and logged in. There were two messages from Scott, and one of them is asking me to show this book. This is my latest book, Clipper, Cosmos, and Children, Finding the Eureka Moment. There's kind of a funny story to this book. Excuse me, I walked into the east wing of our home one day, and there was Wendy reading the original Clipper that I wrote when I was 10 years old on my mom's old typewriter. And Wendy was concentrating extremely hard on it. And she said, "This is the best book you've ever done." I said, "I wrote that when I was 10. And she said, "Case closed. All your books since then have gone downhill, but this one I want you to rewrite and make it into an astronomy themed book." And that's what I did. And I'm showing you the cover of it right now. And this is a very special copy of it. This is Wendy's copy. The book arrived when Wendy, I think it was the day before she went into the hospital for the last time. And God, I miss Wendy so much. I can't tell you how much I miss her. But anyway, I was, this is very difficult. So I took out the alpha copy of the book and signed it to her. She could no longer read, but she could examine the covers, and she examined the front cover, and then she examined the back cover before she gave the book back to me, or just put it down next to her. Anyway, I put this book up on the mantelpiece, and it certainly came in handy because it's the first one I found when I ran in to get a copy of the book that Scotty just asked me to do. Anyway, I'm also delighted that Carol Org is here representing the Astronomical League. And I know this isn't supposed to be done in a public forum, but Carol, I'd kind of like to go to the Louisiana League meeting next year. I'd be very interested in going there if an arrangement can be made. And anyway, going back to Clipper, if any of you would like to buy it, you can, and the person who get it from is directly from the publisher. And the address is Ron J. Kramer, one word, Ron J. Kramer, Kramer, @gmail.com. And so I'm hoping that we'll be able to sell some books. Or if you don't want to do that, it will eventually be on Amazon, either this century or the next, or in the next millennium, or something, or whatever. I understand that Dave Eicher also has a book for children out, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. And so we might do quite a bit with children's books at the next League conference. Anyway, now for the quotation, the poem. And that is, the theme of this week is stellar winds, or sinking as the light wind lives or dies. So the poem I've decided to quote from today is Keats to Autumn. Where are the songs of spring? Aye, where are they? Think not of them, thou hast thy music too. While barred clouds bloom the soft dying day, and touch the stubble plains with rosy hue. Then in a wailful choir the small gnats mourn among the river sorrows, borne aloft or sinking as the light wind lives or dies. And full-grown lambs loud bleat from hilly bourne. Hedge crickets sing, and now with treble soft, the redbreast whistles from a garden croft, and gathering swallows twitter in the skies. Thank you, Scott, and back to you.
Thank you very much, David. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. I don't know how I don't know how you are able to find the appropriate poem for each star party, but you do, and we really appreciate that. So thanks
Thank you.
very much. And if you want, you can go back and watch more of Matlock, but we got some good
I'm going to
speakers.
stick around for a while here.
Okay. All right. Okay, so up next, we've got Carol Orge, president of the Astronomical League. I do want to, as I often like to do, to mention the Astronomical League for all the great work that they do for, to keep that gateway to science open. They encourage so many people through all the outreach programs, through their thousands of members now. They have a virtual army of amateur astronomers out there. Many of them are outreach enthusiasts who are introducing people to the skies for the first time. And they have a great outreach program that was developed by my friend, Dr. Mike Reynolds. So, it's something that you can get recognized for through the league. But I think what you'll find probably most rewarding is doing the outreach itself. It is something I love to do. I find it invigorating. It really, I have to say, when things are not right in my life, if I get out there and do some astronomy outreach work, whether I'm on a street corner or I'm doing Global Star Party or a number of things that I do, I just feel, it's a selfish thing that I do because I feel energized by it. It's hard to explain sometimes, but it makes me happy. And especially if I'm engaging with people who are seeing the moon for the first time or Saturn for the first time, and I get to see their and that shield that people put up as their persona, but you get to see who they are, and you get to see them explore, and you see their minds turn on, and it is an amazing moment when they understand that they're standing on a world looking at another world. So anyhow, I'm going to turn this over to Carol. Thanks again for coming on to Global Star Party. The devotion of the Astronomical League to present themselves live on our program, on their own program, I think is a great dedication, and really shows you how far this all volunteer or almost all volunteer program that is the Astronomical League, that's over 75 years old. Carol, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Scott, and thanks for your kind words. We really appreciate all that you've done for the league as well. And David, thanks for your usual words of wisdom, and that's such a beautiful tribute to Wendy.
Thank you so much, Carol.
Sure. And now I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to talk about some questions from the last Star Party as well as give tonight's. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, good. Of course, everybody, most astronomers who are on here understand that we don't want to be looking at the sun when we're looking through, looking at objects, when we're looking through our telescopes. I wish we could have some sun here in the Midwest. We seem to be in a different type of sequence here right now. I haven't seen the sun. I saw it briefly today, but the predictions are another week at least socked in. Okay.
You're here.
So the last Star Party we had before Thanksgiving was November 22nd, and we had a series of questions there, the three of them. Question number one, a small asteroid hit Earth on November 21st of this year. NASA says meteorites may have been scattered along the shoreline of what lake? The correct answer is Lake Ontario. Lake Ontario. Question number two from that last meeting. On December the 8th, 2 days from now, Mars will be in opposition. 7 days later, Mars will make its closest approach to Earth. How close will Mars be to Earth at closest approach? The answer is 50.6 million miles, or translated to 81.4 million kilometers. Okay. Number 3, why do the sun and the moon appear nearly the same size in our sky? And the answer is, the explanation, although the sun's diameter is 400 times larger than that of the moon, the sun is also about 400 times farther away. So the sun and moon appear nearly the same size as seen from Earth. And we had correct answers submitted by John Williams, Cameron Gillis, Josh Kovac, and Don Knapp. And several of those names are familiar. They seem to be steady viewers on this channel. And the winners for November were Adrian Bradley. Congratulations, Adrian. Josh Kovac
Hooray.
and John Williams. So good going there, Adrian. And now the questions for December 6, 2022. And our usual method is to send your answers to secretary@astroleague.org. Okay, question number 1. Who discovered the 4 main moons of Jupiter in 1610? Who discovered the 4 main moons of Jupiter in 1610? And again, send the answers to secretary@astroleague.org. Number 2, which star is closest to the sun? Which star is closest to the sun? And again, send your answers to secretary@astroleague.org. And finally, question number 3, what is the name of the Astronomical League's Imaging Awards program for adult women? And this award is sponsored by Explore Scientific and Scott. We're very appreciative of that. What is the name of the Astronomical League's Imaging Awards program for adult women? And send your answers to secretary@astroleague.org. Just a heads up, we will be having Astronomical League Live on December 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. And our special guest will be Bob King. The title of his talk will be Embracing Solar Cycle 25, the Most Exciting Years. And also, you'll have our whole crew from the league there on that program as well to meet everybody across the world. And of course, Scott and David will also be with us, so we're very glad about that. And that's it for right now. So back to you, Scott.
Actually, if I could just say one thing, in response to Carol's wonderful presentation, and that is that the sun is once again bursting with activity. I counted 7 groups of spots, 56 spots altogether, and 22 prominences a couple of hours ago.
Wow, how
It
exciting.
really is going.
Now, David, make sure you send us some sun toward the Midwest. So we can see all that.
Please
I will
do.
try my best. Carol, thank you.
Actually, just make it clear tomorrow night, because we have an occultation of Mars by the moon, and we kind of want to see that too. I don't want to have to drive
Looking
4
forward
states
to
to
it.
see
A
that.
lot going on right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully I don't have to drive all the way to where Daniel is to see that. That's an 8-hour drive to New York. So do what you can. Do what you can.
All right. Okay. Well, great. Thank you so much, Carol, for coming on and for the nice shout out for the support. But, we really feel like it's our responsibility to support the community that supports us.
You were talking earlier about the outreach effort. It's so great to see so many now coming back out into the skies again. We went through a lull there that we didn't have much activity, but all of a sudden everybody's back out. And I'll put in just a brief plug here before I go away. we had a fall astronomy day. I was honored to be part of that in Minneapolis here about
Nice.
a couple of months ago, and it was so refreshing to see the public coming out for an astronomy day. So,
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
Well, great. Okay, so we are going to switch to Dave Eicher of Astronomy Magazine. Dave and I got to know each other even better than we knew each other from before at the Starmus event. So that was not only fun and thrilling, but it was once you go through Starmus, I would say that your life is a little bit changed. There's so much brilliance in all the people coming together as they do at Starmus, and to be able to participate in that just a little bit was a huge thrill for me. And so, anyways, but David's got a series of objects he'll be talking about in Dave's Exotic Universe. I can't even pronounce the name of the next object that's on his list here, so I'm just going to let him do it. Thanks, Dave.
Well, thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me again. And this is the big night now. We've finally arrived here. This is very, very exciting to me. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to see if I can share my PowerPoint. And can you see that? And I will see if I can start a slideshow.
Yes.
This is a big one because we have finally gotten to Geelbudagian's Nebula, the nebula with the most unusual name in the entire sky. So this is big. It doesn't get any bigger than this. Geelbudagian's Nebula. It was discovered by the Armenian astronomer Armen Geelbudagian, naturally, in 1977, and it's a variable nebula. It's a very unusual nebula, and it's not exactly clear what's going on with it astrophysically. It was demonstrated as a variable nebula by Martin Cohen, the UCLA astronomer, in 1981. It's associated with an unusual variable star that's called PV Cephei. It ranges in magnitude from about 14.6 to 18.1. It's a star that's 1,600 light years away. So it's similar in a sense to Hubble's Variable Nebula and Hind's Variable Nebula, two much, much more well-known variable nebulae. And it varies like those nebulae in shape and in brightness with the star's variability. But there's also some other weird stuff going on that we'll get to when we see an image of this region in a moment here. When it was discovered, the nebula was a thin ribbon of light, and it's faded and brightened erratically and not really always in correlation with the star. It's currently faded dramatically, and it almost disappeared in 2020. And I don't really know what's going on with it right now. I don't have any images of it, from the last few months. So if you astrophotographers, hint, hint, bless you, and we love you, and please keep sending stuff to the magazine, which the readers love. But get out there and shoot some really weird stuff once in a while. I know we tend to focus on the same 100 objects over and over and over, but there are hundreds and hundreds of objects that nobody really is shooting. This is one of them. So this might be a very interesting object if you have the plate scale to go out and see if you can record some images of. There's an unusual tie also back to Starmus, Scott, where we were, and I didn't realize this at the time when we were there. There was so much else going on. But Armen Geelbudagian, who was born in 1948, he died early this year, of all things, and he was an astronomer right there at the observatory where we were, at Bayerican Observatory outside of Yerevan, just on the edge of Yerevan, where we held Starmus this year. So that's an interesting correlation. He died, I believe it was in February of this year. And he was really a guy, if you count the universe of astronomers who are studying strange stars, it's not the biggest universe in the world compared to other research areas. he was a guy who was very interested in star formation and young stars, as well as dark nebulae and star forming regions like Bach globules and so on. And he wrote more than 90 papers in his career, which came to an end this year. So that was an interesting tie-in to our Armenian experience, Scott.
Yes, yes, it's there's all these. You start to look at a lot of things that we do. There's a lot of threads that link one way or another, you know, and that shows you how tight the astronomy community is.
Absolutely, absolutely right. Now, this is a map showing where Gil-Budagian's Nebula is. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump, very, very close to an object that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the Iris Nebula in Cepheus NGC 7023, which is a pretty well-known object, reflection nebula, and its associated cluster. So it's just kind of in the region here, very close, and you can see what it looks like in this sequence. This is a sequence shot by the British amateur astronomer Mike Harlow, and this is showing it almost, not exactly, but almost once a month for about almost 9 months here. It's not exactly correlated, but you can see this is 2020, the year 2020, a couple of years ago. And you can see that since early in the year, the sort of sliver of light is the nebula, and the bright star that's near the center, not super bright, but the star near the center at the tip of the nebulosity is the star, the weird variable PV Cephei. So you can see that toward the end of 2020, the nebula essentially disappeared, and it's not exactly clear why. But if you go back a little earlier, here is an image made with a better instrument, the Hubble Space Telescope, and you can see PV is just to the right of the nebula there, and you can see this fan shape that's somewhat reminiscent of Hubble's variable nebula and also Hind's variable as well, which are both much, much brighter, of course, than this one. But this is another one of these weird variable nebulae, and it has some both emission and reflection qualities in its spectrum. And so it's not exactly clear what's going on with this and what's happening with it. So if you want a weird object to go out and try to record, this is one for you. And I'll continue to present some of these in the coming weeks as well. So that's it. And I just wanted to again plug my distinguished colleague and friend, Dr. David Levy. Oh, and thank you, Adrian has a live copy of the magazine. It's actually out there now, printed. Our January issue, this is commencing our 50th anniversary year for Astronomy Magazine, which is the largest magazine on the subject in the world. And we have a distinguished leadoff in this special package, everything you wanted to know about comets, but were afraid to ask. Well, who better to introduce this whole package and the entire subject of comets to us than David Levy. So we're very proud to have a 2-page spread that opens this whole issue, is devoted to everything you can imagine about comets, you know, great comets and the science of comets, observing comets by Steve O'Meara, and imaging comets by Damian Peach, and the great, you know, sort of a comet gallery, the history and lore and superstition of comets, Ray Shubinsky, and so on. So it goes on and on and on. But how better to open this whole thing than to have an essay on what comets really mean to us by David. So thank you, David, for contributing that.
Wonderful.
And again,
thank you so much, David. I was really honored to write that. It's one of the things that I did during the course earlier this year, when it's also trying to do my best for Wendy, but I'm glad I did it. The issue is wonderful. And David, you may want to talk a little bit about the book, the children's book you've done.
Yes, and that also, I promise you, I'm not conspiring with Dr. Levy here, but there is another correlation here, because we both have children's books out at the time. And this is one that I worked on with a neighbor of yours now, David, Michael Bakich, who's down across town from you there. And this is a child's introduction to space exploration, looking ahead at the whole era of, obviously you've seen the incredible images from, the last few days from the Orion capsule, the Artemis mission. We're on our way back to the moon. We have a new private multi-layer exploration of space with all these wealthy guys who have started exploration companies. So there's a whole new era of this coming, and kids are very, very excited about this. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we have somebody with an open mic here. So if you can mute yourself if you're not presenting, that would be, thank you.
No problem.
Go ahead, David.
Okay. So anyway, this is kind of introducing kids to a whole new era of space exploration. It's, before we know it, we're going to be looking forward and talking about exciting things that are happening, and not only, looking back at, what we did 50 years ago, although there's nothing wrong with that as well. So David and I would both be honored if you bought at least 6 to 8 copies of each of our books.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you very, very
for
much.
my
And
checkbook
Scott,
now.
and Scott, thank you for having me again. And I
Oh,
will
come on. Yeah, that's great.
relatively short and end the sharing. And thank you once again, Scott. And we have some things that we're chatting about for the coming period. And maybe Scott and I will have some exciting things after a few more weeks to announce for what's going to happen in the future here with some of these crazy activities. But we can't say any more than that, or we would disappear from the planet, and we're not ready to, we're really not quite ready to do that. So
That's right. Yeah, Men in Black would show up. So. Yes. Well, anyhow, that's great. Thank you very much, David. That's wonderful.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah. Up next, we were expecting to have Gary Palmer on, but I did get a message that he may not be able to make it, and it appears that is the case. So Daniel Higgins kindly went to get suited up for Gary Palmer's segment here, which we will turn it over to you, Daniel. Now you have some exciting news to share with us.
Hey, how's it going? Can everybody hear me? Because I was messing around with my mic. I wasn't sure.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Because
5x5,
we
as
can
they
hear
say.
Yeah.
I can't hear myself in here, so it's kind of things are a little messed up. I was not ready to be on, but that's okay. It's all good. We're here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Yeah. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dan Higgins, and I think everybody almost knows me here. And I run a small YouTube channel called Astroworld TV, and we do pretty much it's basically astrophotography outreach, and we do beginners nights on Friday nights, and we do kind of a techie with a lot of guests on Wednesday nights. Scott's been on the show, Sean Nielsen, Adrian has been on the show, Maxie has been on the show. A bunch of people, a lot of YouTubers have out there have been on the show. And so what I decided to do to my detriment and less hair and a lot of stress, have decided to put together something called Astropalooza, which is going on this Saturday, the 10th, and it's an 8-hour streaming event on YouTube.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, it was supposed
It's a long time.
It was supposed to be 2 to 3, and then the response from people in the astrophotography community has been so overwhelming. I just kept on saying, "Yeah, come on the show," and now it's 8 hours, and I'm ready to go jump off a bridge somewhere. But so let me share my screen real quick for you, because I don't want to take up a lot of time here. I just want to show everybody what it's all about.
You can take your time. It's okay.
No, it's okay. That's okay. But Astropalooza 22 is coming up. Like I said, from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern, only on YouTube. Go to www.astroworldweb.com, and you can go to the Astropalooza site, and you can buy your tour shirt. There you go. So the proceeds for all the tour shirts You register your astronomy club with me, and all the proceeds, all the benefits from this T-shirt are going to go to a donation to whatever club wins on our magic spinning wheel that we do every week. We got about 30 different clubs right now that it's going to go to. We've only sold about 10 or 12 shirts so far, but maybe a couple $100 will go to an astronomy community. We already done one $100 check to a local astronomy community, which is really nice. And we're also doing another fundraiser coming up soon. More on that later. But the tour shirt also has all the guests on the back. So there are all the guests right now. And I just added one more. Adam Block, Charles Bracken, Nico Carver, Ernie Jacobs, Josh Kovac, who is in the list of people who won the last questions before. He's going to be on. Amy Astro, all the Masters of Pix Insight, Sean Nielsen, Dr. Christian Seth, and Molly Wakeling. All of them are going to be coming on doing some sort of presentation throughout the day. On top of that, it looks like Prima Luce Lab might make Filippo might make a jump in. So from Italy. So that's going to be a lot of fun from that. So we'll see what happens. It may or may not happen, but we're hoping it does. He's traveling around. But that's Astropalooza, and that again is going on this Saturday from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. So that's about it.
And they go on your website to buy tickets, or how?
No, there's no tickets. You just
No tickets.
No tickets. This
Just
is a totally just jump on. You know, we're expecting like a whole 27 people to be on. And
Okay. Wow.
just kidding. No, we're actually expecting a lot of people on. So I actually put an email out to 265 astro groups that I found off Night Sky Network. Got a lot of response from that.
There you go.
Including,
I sent it out to all my members.
Well, Dan,
Right.
yeah, I sent it out to not only the you caught my president of one of my astronomy clubs, and I
Which
just
one
sent it
is
and
that?
redirected it to the others.
which club was that?
Lowbrow astronomers.
Oh yes.
Yep, University
Yep.
Lowbrow Astronomers. So
And
yeah, so I saw it and I had a couple people that were really interested. I got to actually go back and respond to them because I saw them respond to my email. So you'll have a few more people in the Midwest.
I'm super excited. So I mean, we even got somebody who's on here quite a bit, and friends of everybody here, Kareem Japper.
Yeah,
He
got all of the RASC.
He
if that's the
emailed me.
case.
He emailed me about a week ago, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna send it all out. It's gonna be great." So I'm expecting a long day, but you know what? I think it's going to be informative. I think it's going to be great, as long as you don't have some of the lovely Astro World glitches that happen every week. We'll be okay.
Those things happen.
Yeah,
It's the New York air.
it's
Things
live
glitch
shows
from time to time, but it gets back on track. And yeah, or we could blame Chicago. Tell Ernie I've got a Jordan Chicago White Sox shirt or jersey that I might be willing to sell for a price. So
oh my goodness.
I might come troll them and send them a picture of that jersey. But
That's awesome.
looking forward to it. I plan to drop in a few times throughout the day and
Yeah, no, hey, listen, the only person I expect to be there for the full 8 hours is me. I mean, you know, all the other people out there that are doing, you know, are jumping in, jumping out, you know, go eat, go whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens to be the day of my Astro Club's Christmas party, and I'm not gonna make that, but
well, you got some outreach going. I think you'll be forgiven if you can't go sing at the Christmas party.
No,
Drinking a lot of coffee.
Nobody wants to hear me sing anyway, so it's just you know.
Yeah, I think we went through that the last time. I think the last time we went through that, we were like, "Yeah, you don't want me singing." I remember you said that, but
well, if you're really lucky, and this is some really new news here. This is news within the last couple of weeks. Scott, I don't even think I told you yet. But if you want to hear me sing, and you want to see maybe one or two of the other Astro World guys sing, be at NEAF this year. Because Astro World has their own table at NEAF this year.
Great.
So
Well, I'll be there.
So
I'll be
I know you will.
Daniel, one thing I would like to say for an astropalooza is that it signifies the reach of astronomy, especially amateur astronomy. Worldwide, it goes into everything. And I
Yep.
really wish you the best, Daniel.
That,
Yeah.
One
thank
of
you,
the
David.
things that I have a personal note on that is that in the last couple of months, going out to observe, either alone or with friends, is like taking an enormous tranquilizer the size of this room, and it has no side effects. It makes me feel so much better. I feel so good. I always feel good when I look up at the sky.
Well,
Me and you both. I think
David,
everyone here.
David, you don't.
Daniel,
you don't
are
know.
you coming to the Winter Star Party?
It's on my calendar. I am
Uh-huh.
registered.
Okay.
I'm. It really depends on how much equipment I can get on there with. That matters if I'm going to be on a plane or on the auto train. So I might be on the auto train coming down from Washington, and then drive the rest of the way from I think it's Orlando. I think somewhere around there it stops, and then drive to the Keys. It's 7 or 8 hours down there to get there.
Well, we can set you up right next to Scott if you want.
There you
absolutely. That'd be great.
There you go.
And David, you don't know me, but you know I know you. But I mean, a lot of other people I know you. A couple of people from the Amateur Observer Society of New York actually had the pleasure of, I believe, staying at your house a couple of years back. Susan Rose and Dennis Wild, and I just want to say from me and from them, you know, my condolences on your loss, and I'm so sorry to hear about what happened.
Thank you so much.
No problem. But anyway, that's all I have to say. I don't want to take up any more time, but come on down to Ashpalooza, hang out, even if it's for a couple of minutes, and buy a T-shirt. Make a thing for a local astronomy club somewhere.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, great. We wish you all the best, Daniel, on a successful event. I know it will be one.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, we have a nice lineup of people watching us from around the globe here. Regulars like Tarek
Tarek,
is watching from
UAE.
UAE. That's right. Mike Overacker, Norm Hughes, Osmosis 007 is watching. Yeah, maybe he's going to be the next James Bond. We don't know. We've got Harold Locke watching, and who else? Keith. I just saw it go by here. Anyways, Keith, and lots of others here. So Dustin Gibson's watching from OPT. And we thank you all for tuning in to the 108th Global Star Party. Beatrice Hines from Belgium, there she says, just tuned in. So up next, we're going from Astropalooza to the Winter Star Party. And so up next is Russ Brick of the Southern Cross Astronomical Society. Russ, thanks for coming on.
Oh, thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Well, I like the background there. It's just.
I was going to say, as you can see, I'm broadcasting live from the Winter Star Party. But this is about what you'll see when you're camped out in front of the property.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, Russ, give us some history of the Winter Star Party. You know, there's new people that are on that don't know about Winter Star Party. I know it's on a lot of people's bucket list. So let's talk about the history a little bit, and then why you want to go to go to this amazing event.
Well, this will be the 39th annual Winter Star Party. We actually got interrupted last year. We weren't able to hold anything at all, but this will be the 39th Star Party. It was started by Southern Cross Astronomical Society and Tippy Dioria.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Tippy had recently passed, Scott, I'm sure you know.
Oh, yes.
And
but what an icon of the hobby, for sure.
Oh, yeah. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
I have a lot of good memories of being down on the field with him.
Me too.
Observing.
Me
And he
too.
was an observer too. He wasn't really a photographer.
Uh-huh. That's right.
But the Star Party actually really started out in Mahogany Hammock. And it's funny, they used to have to break down there every day and then reassemble again in the early years. I think they were there for 3 years. And then they finally found Camp Wassumpke. And ever since the hurricane 5 years ago, I guess, when the camp got completely wiped out, we've been using Camp Sawyer as well. And it
Right.
really turns out to be a nice environment, because the Girl Scout camp is now completely rustic camping, and the Boy Scout camp is where the facilities are. And it's on the west end. You just walk through a little pass. There's no vehicle traffic to go to the showers. And it's a very, very nice shower facility. 10 showers and 10 bathrooms. Run by the Boy Scouts.
Yeah. And,
Super clean, super nice.
actually, it's a
environment.
very nice facility. You don't have to wait for showers typically. There's going to be one or two of them open, and it's wonderful to be out there in that weather. It's so cold in much of the rest of the country. To come down there and it's like 79, 80 degrees. Nice breeze blowing by. All your friends there with all their telescope gear. So
and the skies are crystal clear. It's really amazing to be down there. And the real big draw is, of course, the Florida Keys, but being able to see the southern objects too, like Eta Carina and Omega Centauri. When I step out of my tent at 11 o'clock at night, Omega Centauri is blam, right there, right in front of me. It's like a flashlight shining out at me.
yes, that's right.
It's really awesome.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And so what can people expect to see? I mean, if you're a visual observer, you're pretty far south. What are some of the things that a lot of people in the northern hemisphere don't see?
Well, they're not going to see Omega Centauri. They're probably not going to see the galaxy right above it. I can't think of the name.
Centaurus A.
Taurus A.
Yeah, Centaurus A. I'm sorry.
Right?
Eta Carina, the Jewel Box Nebula, all those things. The Southern Cross, for one, which is the namesake of our club. The entire Southern Cross rises above, I guess, about 3 degrees above the horizon. It's
Right.
really picturesque.
So you just missed the Magellanic Clouds then?
Yeah, you don't get to see
Just
those.
miss them.
Yeah.
Because that's the section that actually goes into Orion beyond that. But but that's still a great number of things that you normally wouldn't see in my latitude in Michigan. So it's a huge draw.
Plus, the
to come just
ecliptic
to see those
the
things.
ecliptic is pretty good there. A lot of times you'll have Jupiter right overhead. Saturn will usually be a little lower in the sky. But we get full. Usually this time of year, the biggest draw is the Orion area and that whole complex there, because it's right overhead most of the night.
That sounds cool.
That's cool. It is cool. It's
Leo
just
rises right up
it's just got
there.
a great vibe, the whole thing. I mean, you can sit there and just relax in a lawn chair and just look up with binoculars. You can walk through the telescope field and look through giant Dobsonians at amazing objects up in the sky. Incredible astrophotography is being done at this Star Party.
Oh yeah. We have a good lineup of speakers this year. Speaking of astrophotography, I mean, Richard Wright is one of our speakers.
Okay.
He'll be doing
Excellent
a talk
photographer.
on a future of astrophotography. And, I'm not going to give a shameless plug for his software, but that we all use it. Charlie Warren will be there to give a talk, The Zen and Art of Astronomical Pursuit. Peggy Walker and Rick, they'll both be there talking about the Astronomical League. Jeffrey Corder, I came in on the very end when Mr. Levy was talking about some sunspots. He's going to do a talk on processing hydrogen alpha solar images. And I'm really interested to see that one.
Absolutely.
Mike Lockwood, he'll talk about, his talk is kind of funny. It's like, what the heck is an interferometer? And it's going to be a great talk.
Absolutely. Have no fear of the interferometer.
Right. As Scott was saying, we get a lot of really large Dobsonians down there, 28s, 30s, 32s.
Right. That's right.
It's really blows my mind sometimes when I climb up to the top of that ladder and you look at Saturn and it almost looks like a photograph.
Yeah.
It's
That's
just,
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seeing conditions at Winter Star Party are legendary. I think that often they get down to 1 arcsecond or better seeing, because there's just there's no mountains or hills or anything to kind of disrupt that airflow as it's coming off the ocean.
nope, it's beautiful down there. I mean, and when you look east,
Yeah,
you really don't, well, you see the light dome from Marathon, but it's not intrusive at all. And
right.
then when when everything's coming overhead and you look south, it's just inky black out over the
Yes.
ocean.
Yeah, there's nothing out there. That's
No.
right. That's
Yeah.
right.
I was wondering if you had somebody take an SQML meter and fire it at some of the different parts, like fire it out over that over the water and fire it straight up into the sky, see what readings you were getting. I'm
On the
guessing
camp?
you're going to be somewhere in the high
Yeah.
21.78, maybe
Yeah, I
even
got
9 the way it
almost
sounds.
20. I got almost 22
Almost
Wow.
20.
last
Okay,
time
so
I was
yeah,
down there.
you're sitting Bortle 2 pretty
Oh,
good
yeah.
there.
Oh yeah. The
Yeah.
sky is very crisp too. The planetary observing is just, it's the best. It really is.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
skies are super steady.
Mm-hmm. And
And-
the other thing that's cool about Winter Star Party is it's so close to Key West. So you got great restaurants, you got stuff to do during the day. On more than one occasion, we were able to run out to Key West or Marathon, for that matter, and have some great dinners. I mean, it's just
Oh,
a lot
go
of
to
fun.
Marathon and go to Keys Fisheries. The
Yeah.
most unbelievable lobster macaroni and cheese that you're ever gonna have. It's just
Right.
unbelievable.
And they have
And,
something called they called it a Keysy feeling, and I didn't know what they meant about that until I went to the Keys my first time. And this has been like, I don't know, 20 years ago or so, maybe even more than that. And it's just like you just kind of slow down and you just feel a lot more relaxed. You get maybe get a little as you're setting up or something like that, you go through that setup angst a little bit, but once you're set up and you got your stuff all arranged and everything, and you're kicked back and your friends start showing up around you, and the friendly staff of the Winter Star Party is amazing, it's just, it's a must do. A lot of people say, yeah, that's on my bucket list. Well, you should definitely make it because, these guys have put in a lot of hard work for many years. Okay. And, so, definitely something that you want to support.
And if I might say, if there's anyone out there who's interested in coming to the Winter Star Party as a vendor, you can reach out to me at WSP@scas.org. That's WSP@scas.org.
And I've put that into the live chat. Okay. So,
And our website to register for the Star Party would be www.scas.org.
gotcha. Okay. Sign up and we'll see you there. So Russ, thanks very much for coming on. And maybe we'll get you one more time before Winter Star Party kicks off. So
That would be great, Scott. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
yeah. And let's give them the dates again for Winter Star Party.
Okay, February 13th through February 19th.
There we go. Okay. That's it.
All right, everybody. Thanks very
Thanks.
much. We hope to see you down in South Florida. And if you're
All
coming,
right.
drive safe.
Yep. Okay, everyone. So we're going to take a break here and come back with more great talks on Global Star Party.
Thanks again, Russ. That does sound really, really good.
I'm telling you.
There's a region of the Milky Way that I'd be able to get. I'm doing a presentation on 4 regions that you see in the northern side of the globe, and it looks like that region you can see I would consider a 5th, and the Magellanic Cloud section leading to Orion would probably be a 6th region. So yeah, that may become my mission, to image all 6 and do those mosaics you see people do where they put it all together and you basically get spread out the entire part of the galactic center and the big
Right.
arms that we can see.
Yep. Well,
from
if
Earth,
you're an
so-
imager, then the skies at the Winter Star Party are a place you want to be. But if you're a visual observer too, I'm telling you, it's outstanding. I
Yeah.
probably cataloged over 1,000 galaxies myself. And
Oh wow. Yeah.
Leo and
That's,
Canes Ventacci just sit there all night long and just bang out galaxies from my computer.
we were doing that at Okitex, similar type of sky, where it starts to turn grayish, it gets that dark, and you can see a definite dust lane, the rift that goes through the galactic arm. And yeah, it sounds exciting, because those are some of the objects that have been on my bucket list to see, along with the of course, the Magellanic Clouds I think are on everyone's bucket list if you're from
Yeah,
the
I'd love
northern
to see those
hemisphere.
myself.
Yeah, but you provide a way to see all of that without requiring a passport, which is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
That's definitely worth considering. I'm on the website and I see some of the pictures people have taken, and it's that would be a good vacation for me to take in February.
I'm telling you, and you know what? You can't do it now because there's there was damage to the island, but you can go to Key West and you take a day trip to the Dry Tortugas, and the boat won't leave until after dark. You can actually get a permit to camp there, and you'll see the Magellanic Cloud from there.
Okay, so you
The
can
Dry
take
Tortugas.
so you could take a boat down to.
Wow, I did not realize that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something they're trying to bring back, or is that something you can do now?
Well, there's a national park out there, Dry Tortugas National Park. It's an old fort,
Okay.
and you can apply for a permit to camp. You have to bring in everything. You have to take out everything as well. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no facilities there at all.
Yeah,
So it's rustic
It's
camping.
wild. It's wide open.
Yeah, it's wild open. But it's also about, I'm going to say 50 on, I don't even know how much further south. I know it's a couple of degrees
Okay.
for sure.
And then
I don't know exactly how many miles it is now.
okay.
But,
And then that puts you just in range of the Magellanic Clouds, which is kind of the last. That's south. That's it. And you got, sorry about that. And from there, you've basically got the section leading to Orion. And that's that's the entire Milky Way at that point. So that's,
Right.
yeah, that sounds, I did apply for a passport because Maxi Falaris and the Argentina contingent have invited me to fly down there at some point, but getting down there might not be the easiest to do, but that sounds like a very workable option. Come down there, take that boat, and get down to that island. Couple of days, just bring enough rations for a couple of days, and maybe check the weather to make sure I'm going to go if it's cloudy on the horizon. That's not going to work.
We've been, my
I'd be
club,
coming
a
back.
bunch of guys in my club, we've been threatening to rent a boat load all our gear on it, go out there and stay for the weekend. But
That's
like I said, we've been threatening.
yeah. That
It's a
it
big
got
trip.
definitely takes some planning to pull it off for real because you gotta
Oh yeah.
you gotta figure out what you're gonna do for regular human needs. You gotta bring the refrigerator full of goodies for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, you mean the
But,
ice chest.
yeah, a couple. But no, that sounds really good.
Well, you were on our website. Register. Come on down. We'll be glad to have you.
All right. Definitely make a better effort to add that to my time budget, as I like to call it. I think it's worth investing in.
Yeah, you wouldn't be sorry. Unless, of course, it rained.
Yeah. Well, even if it does, it rained a little bit at Okie-Tex and brought humidity. So it changed the sky from that gray that, you get when you're in a drier, it changed the color of the sky to more of an inky blue black.
Right.
And we were like, yeah, we just brought the Michigan skies with us to Okie-Tex. Still see more stuff there than,
That's one
sounds
place I
like you
gotta
see
go.
the same stuff at your location down here.
I really
you
want to
see
go
so
there.
much.
I was talking to a friend of mine. Do you know Greg Bragg from Celestron?
I've heard the name. I think was he there? He might have been
Yeah,
there.
he was there.
Yeah,
He was
I
telling me
talked
the
to him.
skies were amazing, and I gotta go check that one out.
Yeah, so it's gonna look similar. There may be a slightly different color. I know you're over water over here, but in the skies. But you told me what those SQM meters. That's SQM meters at Okie-Tex are 21.95, 21 point. Sometimes it actually hits a 21.99. Never seen it hit 22 though. So it's the scale these days that says that's high Bortle too.
Yeah, well, that's
So,
where we're at.
yeah,
2190s.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing either way. So that's something to look forward to.
So, how do you get on this chat here that's on my screen right now?
Oh, these are folks that are they're at the YouTube stream.
Oh, okay.
So they're
because
listening to me
I
talk
didn't want
about.
this person to think that the Magellanic Clouds were visible from the Keys because they're not.
Oh, they're not? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so
all the way. That's actually all the way down in the Dry Tortugas. It's a lot further
Okay.
south. It's a few degrees further south.
yeah, they can hear us.
Oh, they can?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he just
didn't know
heard you
that.
tell him that they're not visible from the Florida Keys. So just to repeat
Yeah,
it,
I mean,
you have to go.
if
Sounds
that
like
was
you have to go
if that
further
was the
in that
case,
boat.
I would be down there every other weekend. Wow, that's pretty cool. I've never seen this whole thing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It reminds me of the
Yeah,
Apollo diagrams and stuff like that, except we didn't have these kinds of visualizations. I mean, it was a very crude digital, or maybe it wasn't even digital, you know.
Scott, you remember Steve Van Ryn?
Who?
Steve Van Ryn. He's one of my members. He was always at the Star
Probably if I
Party.
saw his face again, I would recognize him.
He actually has a bona fide, real copy of the mission log.
Wow,
Yeah,
very cool.
it's in a binder that's like this thick.
Yikes. Yeah.
I think it was Apollo
On the cover it
13.
says "How to Fly to the Moon."
That's pretty cool.
It was very cool.
So this is basically a visualization of Artemis 2.
Yep.
And would the landing attempt be Artemis 3 then?
I am not sure.
I see a lot of questions on Quora. Have you ever seen that site?
No.
People ask questions there, and supposedly qualified people answer the questions. There were a lot of people that were saying that they didn't understand why it took so long for Artemis to go to the moon when, you know, all the Apollo missions were there in 3 days. And nobody really, you know, somebody came on and explained about, you know, how many orbits there were, you know, how it was a slow approach and everything like that. So
Right. Well, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Thanks to the European Space Agency for putting that together. A lot of the video clips that you guys see on Global Star Party are from NASA. They're also from Goddard Space Flight Center. The people that also the teams that do the visualizations for Mars rovers and stuff like that. There's just a wealth of information that's out there. So if you're looking for videos for your astronomy club meetings or special groups or classrooms or anything like that, there's tons of stuff that's royalty free. I mean, they want you to stream it. They want you to get it out there. It's educational material that helps these organizations survive to a large part because they're getting public support. And that's very important. Up next is Molly Wakeling. Molly runs a series called Astronomolly's Universe, or just Astronomolly, and she is really fantastic. She gives us the science behind images that she takes from her own backyard, she often mixes in information about how she's processed the image, how she's acquired that image, and then what's going on, so I think that that's very, very cool. It's like an amazing lesson plan that she does in 15 or 20 minutes. So Molly, thanks for coming on to Global Star Party.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Always.
All right, I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Excuse me. All right, that should be coming through. Let me get this to, there we go. Okay. So on the theme of stellar winds, I was thinking about some nebulae that, pretty much all the nebulae that we see have been in some way shaped by stars and their hot stellar winds, especially the young, hot newborn stars in these nebulae. There's a whole bunch that I could have talked about. Some I've already talked about before, like the Crescent Nebula, which is a great example of how stellar winds are creating a really cool looking nebula. But I decided to talk about the Eagle Nebula because I realized I hadn't talked about it yet. and it's gorgeous. And also James Webb recently put out a new picture of it. So figured I'd go ahead and talk about it tonight. So the Eagle Nebula is also known as Messier 16, although it's not the nebula itself that Charles Messier observed. He saw the cluster of stars, and the name actually really belongs to the cluster of stars, but it's also now referred to as the whole nebula. It is a large emission nebula in the Sagittarius region of the Milky Way, one of the summer highlights for sure. And it's like all of these large emission nebula, it's a stellar nursery. There's a lot of hot, young, newborn stars here. The picture in the background is one of the older Hubble images of it that really put the Eagle Nebula on the map as far as stunning images that came out of Hubble that inspired the next generation, really. So where can you find the Eagle Nebula? So we have our teapot asterism here that makes it really easy to find a lot of things that are along the plane of the Milky Way, especially when the Milky Way is kind of hard to see. These stars are still relatively bright. You can see them in somewhat more light polluted places, although maybe not like from the city quite. But it's an asterism that once you see it, you can never unsee it. An asterism being a subpart of a larger constellation or another arrangement of stars that's not an officially recognized constellation. So if this is the top of our teapot here and the handle, we have the spout over here, and the Milky Way kind of looks like it's steam rising up from the spout of the teapot. And so you can follow that steam up the Milky Way to hit up some highlights like the Lagoon Nebula, the Trifid Nebula. There's quite a few open clusters and globular clusters through here as well. You can pass through the Messier 24 Sagittarius star cloud, which is a really dense region with a lot less gas and dust to block the way, where there's a ton of stars. Keep going up past the Omega/Swan Nebula here. My mouse will not keep disappearing. And then finally, you make it all the way up to the Eagle Nebula. So it's higher in the sky than some of the other summer highlights. And for me, it means I can image it a little better from my more northern latitude because it's not quite so far down on the horizon like the Lagoon Nebula is. To give another context, I figured I'd take a picture of the Milky Way that I have from Texas Star Party and show where it was on a more familiar view of the Milky Way. So here's our teapot asterism and the steam rising up out of the spout. We have the Lagoon Nebula, Sagittarius star cloud, M17, and finally M16 Eagle Nebula up here, surrounded by stars Antares and Altair that are quite easy to pick out. This one here is actually Saturn. This is from a couple of years ago when it was closer to the Milky Way. All right, so I like to have a slide of fast facts, things that are essential to know about some of its character. So I think I actually didn't update that magnitude value from the last presentation I gave here. So I think it's actually I think it's magnitude 6.4.
That's okay. I've made tons of worse mistakes.
This is the first time this has happened. I'm sorry.
That's pretty awesome. That's the first time.
Well, it looks magnitude 4 at Okie-Tex.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
Yeah, they just show up quite nicely, quite readily in cameras, especially ones that are more red sensitive. So I think I saw that it was actually, well, it's hard to say what magnitude it is because first of all, it's a huge expansive nebula, not as big as like some stuff up in Cygnus, but a rather large nebula. And the center where the pillars of creation are is very bright and the outer edge is much, much dimmer. Plus we've got all these stars that have their magnitude. So it's actually, I wasn't going to put a magnitude number on it because it's kind of hard to really have a single magnitude for this nebula. So it is the nebula, the stars are actually a little bit closer than kind of the main part of the nebula that's been carved out by those stars. So it's about 5,700 light years away. It's some 70 by 55-ish light years across. So in its extent in space is quite large. And I had to go double check that the sources I was looking at these for weren't mixing up the light years and the arc minutes, because the the arc minutes of apparent size is almost exactly the number of
The same.
which is a
Mhm.
strange happenstance here. Yeah, so 70 by 50 arc minutes in apparent size. For reference, the full moon is about 30 arc minutes across. So a couple of full moons in size here on the sky. If we could see the whole thing, it would be quite a sight at its relatively large size. And it was discovered like people like yeah, I mean, you really kind of need a telescope to really appreciate the star cluster that's there, or at least a pair of binoculars. So discovered in 1745, written down by Charles Messier. He could only really see the star cluster. He wouldn't have been able to see the nebula with the telescope that he had. But it turned out to be a nice thing for him to be able to spot and name, because there's a gorgeous nebula there as well. So like, you can't talk about the Eagle Nebula without talking about the incredible pillars of creation. So the Hubble image I showed on the other slide is the image that they produced in the 90s. I can't remember which year it was, maybe 95. They produced an updated image not too long ago. I don't remember when this one came out either, but they took a new image of it, and it's just absolutely mind-blowing, the amount of incredible detail that you can see on the pillars. And this is a false color image. This is what's known as the Hubble palette, where sulfur gas is red, hydrogen gas is colored green, and oxygen gas is colored blue. And so you can kind of see the mixtures of those gases here in the distribution of the colors here. I used the Hubble palette on my own image of the Eagle Nebula as well, where you can see a much lower resolution version of the pillars here. But it's always a joy to capture. And at some point, I am going to do this on my higher magnification Schmidt Cassegrain. I just I didn't have my monochrome camera on that telescope this summer to do it in narrowband, but I think I'm going to swap and put narrowband on the reflector this summer and put the color camera back on the refractor, because I swapped last year, so I'm going to swap back this year. Yeah, so this is a 3.5 hour total exposure from the Texas Star Party. Actually, with an SBIG STF 8300 that I was borrowing. So this is a CCD camera, and I compared it to my ZWO ASI 1600, and the 1600 gathered as much light in about half the time as the SBIG did, with less noise. So my friend who was trying to sell me his SBIG ended up not selling it to me because it wasn't as good as my ZWO. Yeah, so beautiful pose of creation. And I want to just emphasize here that this structure here, which, you know, from this wider perspective is just this guy here, is 4 light years long. Just unimaginable.
How many light years?
4.
4.
Yeah.
Each
so
light year is
like
5.9 trillion miles. Yeah, 5.9 trillion miles. That is
an incredible distance. It's
huge.
Approximately the distance from here to Alpha Centauri, the next nearest star to us, which makes it sound smaller, but it's another way to emphasize how big space is. And this is a structure of dust that is as big as the distance between us and Alpha Centauri. So it's truly incredible. Yeah, all right. So let's zooming in a little more on the pillars of creation. So this structure is a little closer to 6,500 to 7,000 light years away. Yes, the 5,700 was actually the distance to the star cluster. Sorry, I got those backwards. And then 6,500 to 7,000 is the distance to the pillars. These are made up of columns. They're molecular hydrogen gas and dust. So molecular hydrogen is when you have 2 hydrogens bonded together. And a lot of times in these dark nebula, there's also a lot of other chemicals and interesting things. It's kind of what's generally referred to as dust. A lot of leftover star stuff of a bunch of different elements and even some chemical compounds. These are shaped by the ultraviolet light from the young stars that are in the area. So these intricate shapes come from the stellar winds of these stars that push and pull that gas into different shapes. a lot of, especially in these high resolution Hubble images, you can see a lot of these tiny little dots, and these are called Bok globules.
Oh, yeah.
And these are actually protostars, so stars that are in the process of forming, but haven't really like ignited yet, or are in the very initial stages of that, where gas has coalesced, gas and dust under the gravitational pull, and are in the process of forming a star. Now, some of you may have heard about the fact that there's a star that there appears to have been a supernova some time ago, and that shockwave from the supernova may have already reached the pillars and have already destroyed them, and the light from that event just hasn't gotten to us yet.
Wow.
But I learned when I was looking this up that our understanding of that has actually changed in the last couple of years with new data. So the Spitzer telescope, which is another infrared telescope, showed that this supernova might have exploded some 8,000 to 9,000 years ago, and that the shockwave could be deforming the pillars, but we wouldn't see it for a while. However, when they compared Hubble images that were 20 years apart, so the old version of the pillars of creation and the new version, you would see some perturbation in the pillars if that shockwave was on its way, because there's kind of like the bow shock front and stuff like that. Like you would see some perturbation if that shockwave was incoming, but they don't see any of that evidence. So they think it's actually been spared by this supernova, and it will actually probably be in something like this shape for another 10,000 years. So the good news is you don't have to fret. We're not going to see.
That's good.
those
I
pillars be
was
destroyed.
getting nervous.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so that's the most recent that I've heard on that topic, and it looks like it's been spared from the supernova. So yay for us, and yay for future people looking at these. And another note I have on just the incredible size of these things, those little fingers at the top of some of the pillars here, those are the size of the solar system.
Oh, wow.
So just,
I'm starting to feel very small.
yeah. It's crazy stuff. So I like to show what these objects in space look like in different wavelengths of light. So because they can sometimes look very different, or sometimes have a lot of similarities in different wavelengths of light. So here we have two radio type views here. So the one on the left is much longer wave radio, like 1,000 to 2,000 megahertz. So shorter wave than your than your like FM radio, but longer than like the hydrogen alpha, or the hydrogen the 21 centimeter line for hydrogen, if anybody likes that, which I do. On the right is and radio images are usually very low resolution because of that much longer wavelength of light. Your detector has to be physically large, and that means that a single pixel can, instead of being a couple of microns that it is for like having a camera on your telescope, these things are like centimeters across in order to match the wavelength of that light. So your pixel on the sky is much, much larger than it is on your optical camera. So these images are usually much lower resolution, unless you get into some fancy techniques with interferometry and stuff like that. The image on the right is at a microwave wavelength of a little less than a millimeter, using the SCUBA instrument at the James Clerk Maxwell Telescope in Hawaii. And actually, really, in both of these, you can kind of see the pillar shape there. It's not quite as high def as in the optical light with Hubble, but you can see that pillar shape, which I think is remarkable, that even at these other wavelengths, it really kind of holds that shape. All the different chemicals glowing in these different light wavelengths kind of still are in that shape. You don't always see that with nebula. They can oftentimes look quite different in different wavelengths. So in much higher resolution, we have recent images from the James Webb Space Telescope in the near infrared and the mid infrared, which are similar, but kind of reveal some different structures, because when you start getting into the infrared, you can actually pierce through the dust and see deeper into the structure. So actually able to see more of what's going on inside and reveal more of the stars and protostars that are in there than we can see in optical light. And these are all false color because we can't see infrared light, But they've used different wavelengths of infrared to create a color palette like the Hubble palette does for optical light. And yeah, if you haven't had a chance to go see the James Webb images of the pillars of creation yet, definitely go check them out. I'm really happy they prioritized this target to make a nice kind of tie back to Hubble. This is a like the Hubble image of all time. Up in X-ray, so the pillars actually have a lot of point sources of X-rays, and the stars that are forming there would actually not be quite hot enough to glow this hot in X-ray. So we're trying to figure out what type of sources that are in there that are glowing this hot in X-ray. But you can see a lot of these point sources, and they don't quite follow the shape of the pillars. They're randomly distributed. So kind of a different view here where you can't really see the pillars anymore, but a lot of these X-ray sources that are inside of the pillars. I found this neat video that shows the 3D structure of the pillars, because from our perspective, they can look flat because we're just looking at it from one direction. But using some data from probably from some scopes like Gaia and Hipparchus that can tell the distances between stars, and probably some Doppler shift stuff, I've been able to figure out what kind of the rough 3D shape of these are, and they're kind of actually stacked on top of each other instead of being completely side by side, which is really cool. Nope, next slide. There we go.
So that video actually showed, it looks like those pillars there's the one tallest pillar and then the other two. I had always thought the tallest one was closer to us, and this is showing when it gets to the view, it actually shows the other two pillars are closest to us. So I find that pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it is.
I'd never viewed them that way.
Yeah, and it is kind of hard to tell what's close and what's further just looking at the image. I've actually always kind of seen it further back than the other two myself, but yeah, it's really fascinating to be able to see that 3D view for sure. Okay. Yeah, so if you want to observe the Eagle Nebula and the pillars of creation, the time of year is in the summertime. You can see it if you stay up later in the night. You can see it in May, or if you don't want to stay up late, wait till August or September. And of course, later in the year, the Milky Way doesn't rise as high because of the way that we move around, and the way that the planet is tilted. But it's really the best time is like July or August to be able to catch it when it's higher up in the sky, unless you're in the southern hemisphere. Then it's nice and high like all the time, and I'm very jealous. So it's really hard. It's pretty much impossible to see any of the nebula without having like an ultra high contrast or a nebula filter of some kind, like an oxygen 3 filter. You're going to be able to see it the best with. Otherwise, you just see the stars that are there, and it is a nice looking cluster. But if you want to see the nebula, you need to use like an ultra high contrast or an O3 narrowband filter. And but that area in the middle is quite bright. So with that filter, you can actually use it on a smaller telescope and be able to see it. It's just a matter of pulling that contrast out from the background, is why those filters are important. Photographically, it photographs well at every focal length of instrument you might have. If you have a short camera lens, you can get it plus a Swan Nebula in the same view, and it's really cool. With a 500 millimeter refractor, you can get kind of a wide shot and see the eagle shape, like the image I had a couple slides ago. Or if you have a long focal length reflector, you can zoom right in on the pillars of creation and get a nice shot there, or the other spire that's nearby them. So it photographs well at every length of telescope, and you can do it either in wideband with light pollution filters or in narrowband. And if you do it wideband, you pretty much only get the red signal, and it can be kind of hard to distinguish the pillars from the background, as you can see in the image on the background of the slide here. But if you do it in narrowband, it's still, in my hydrogen signal, last time I processed it, it was kind of hard to pull out from the background because it's all so bright right there. But you can get some nicer color contrast if you do it in narrowband, but it can be done in wideband for sure, especially with a more red sensitive astro camera. Although this picture here was done with a DSLR that's unmodified. And yep, all right, I covered all those things. And yeah, that's what I've got on the Eagle Nebula.
Awesome. Awesome. Let me see if there were any questions here. You did worry the audience that, that those pillars might be gone in a few thousand years. So
I have long been worried about this and was glad to get the chance to research it this week and see that it had recently been determined to probably not be destroyed. So yay.
Yeah. We were talking, David Eicher and I were talking about rock and rollers that are now performing, still doing stadium type events at near 80 or past 80 years old, so I
Yeah.
think some of them might still be around for this event, so.
I could think of certain college professors who will probably still be around too.
We can outfit them with some telescopes and some cameras and stuff. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But on any account, I really appreciate you being on, Molly. And what's going on with your studies and your work?
Yeah, so I passed my prospectus, so I'm officially a PhD candidate now, which is very exciting.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you. And so now I'm in full research mode. So I got my data actually last January at the 88-inch cyclotron at Lawrence Berkeley Lab, shooting neutrons onto a square of aluminum oxide to measure how those neutrons interact with the oxygen. So I have all that data, and I finally am getting a chance to get my hands on it after all the schoolwork I had to do earlier this year. So I'm most of the way through doing all the calibrations, and then I have to do some stuff with the detectors to measure their efficiency, and then I can start kind of parsing the bits of the data together to get the values that I want out of it. So this will be a month-long process, but I'm excited to just finally get to spend my days doing the data analysis instead of like doing coursework or studying for exams. So
well, we know you'll do an amazing job. So that's great.
So do you have an ETA now for when you'd be able to defend the work?
So it looks like I'm gonna defend probably late July or sometime in August. I'm hoping to get through this data analysis and get as much as I can out of it by like June, so I can get all my papers written and get. My plan is to write the dissertation that I have left to go after doing the prospectus as I go, so that I don't have to just do a ton of writing at the end. So, but I'll have some journal articles to write during that time as well. Hopefully, if the data analysis goes well.
Yeah. So I know it's one thing at a time, but then the big party after they declare you Dr. Wakeling. That's
the big party. Yeah.
We're all looking forward to hearing.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool.
Hearing that. And
I'll have to come on and give a talk or something. I don't know.
That would be awesome.
Please do. That'll be great.
We want your first talk is Dr. Wakeling.
That would be pretty great. Yeah.
Cool. And good luck in your studies and go get it.
Thanks.
Great. Okay. Thank you again, Molly.
Absolutely.
We're going to go down from the USA down to Argentina, where, I've been watching, I don't know if you guys have been watching the FIFA World Cup of, soccer. Argentina's doing pretty good. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. How do you feel?
Yes, but Marcelo is from Brazil.
And then we got Brazil coming up after this. So, you guys,
you both made it past the round of, oops, sorry, Scott, but you both made it past the round of 16, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're looking at teams that are the best in the world, so.
Brazil is an amazing, have this year an amazing team.
Marcello's showing me.
They are, yes. I don't know.
There's a lot of pride being showed in the national team. That is,
yes, Marcelo.
Look at that.
Very nice, very nice.
Congratulations, Marcelo, because your team had an excellent teams, excellent players, excellent games. Sorry. And of course that Argentinians, we are prepared for suffering all time, because any game is easy for us, and we starting losing from Arabia, we are suffering each instance of
Every
playing.
second.
US would be out of it altogether.
Yeah,
Cesar.
yes.
Brazil
is-
will have a game with Argentina. If Brazil wins in the next game and Argentina wins the next game, then Brazil and Argentina will
In the final.
That was
Oh
going to
my
be my next
God.
question.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Someone's going to have a heart
Yes.
attack. Okay.
Oh my God, my God.
so if that happens, that's
For
going to
this
make it interesting
Friday,
for Global
talking
Star
with
Party.
Netherlands. Yeah, come on.
We'll have to watch
It's-
it live on Global Star Party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
countries are extremely passionate about their soccer. Okay. Very,
Yes.
very
In
passionate.
fact,
Yes,
you
we
all
call it football.
You call it
Yeah.
football.
Football, yeah.
Yeah, that's
yes.
right.
Every,
Marcello, do you wear that shirt when you're
I
watching
think
the show?
that yes,
The-
yes.
the
I
game?
think that
My-
Marcelo,
you wear yours
Marcelo
too,
used
my kids,
that,
my
yes.
kids, my kids use, and sometimes
Yeah.
I use also. Right?
Yes,
Here we are now using we have another one that is a blue t-shirt.
Ah.
That is the second Brazilian official
yeah.
t-shirt.
Very nice.
No.
Very nice.
I try to control myself about about the passion.
So we-
About the
but
passion,
if
because
Argentina
yes, if
wins-
I start, yeah.
Cesar, I've
Cesar,
heard
if
that in
Argentina
Argentina,
wins-
none of the fans can control themselves.
No. It's so fun. Near from here exists a fan fest here in my town in Palermo, the area of Buenos Aires. We choose see the games in the by TV, but
Yeah.
my daughter go to the fan fest, and at only 4 blocks from here, the last game was 40,000 people in the fan fest with a big screen in the street.
Wow.
Yes, and we listen the noise. Because it's like a stadium. It's only a big screen with
It's just
in the
it's
middle
just
of
television.
a wide avenue for 40,000
40,000 people watching.
40,000 people
Well,
watching. Yes.
Wow.
I
Here in the
choose the
States-
TV only.
That
Here
sounds
the
like
deal-
just like
We're at
one
a
of Marcello's
Final
star
Four.
parties, though.
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
We're going to get to that number eventually. Here in the States, we have American football, college football, and my team's down to the Final Four. So we're rooting for University of Michigan. There's
Yeah.
3 other schools, our hated rivals, and then 2 other schools, Georgia and Texas Christian University, I believe.
No, but you are
So-
gentlemen in the stadiums.
Yeah.
Argentinian is Matt Damon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I
You
know
can
who
you can found an interview to Matt Damon, because the Matt Damon wife is Argentinian.
Mhm.
He talked with the interviewer that he said to his father-in-law to say, okay, we can go to see Boca Juniors. Boca Juniors is I am from River Plate. I am a River Plate fan, and another team is Boca Juniors.
Okay.
The
Okay.
biggest
Rival.
team in Argentina, rival, yes. And his men told to Matt Damon, that is the Ryan Soldier, you know. They say, okay, no, it's not easy. It's without childs, without women. We can go to see to Boca Juniors, and the experience is amazing, but it's a little dangerous, because
Yeah.
you can see a lot of you can see something like a war, like a lot of police. The passion is sometimes it's dangerous. The problem is that in many stadiums you have the things are not easy to share or to, but I saw I saw this in the stadiums and are incredible. And of course that now the passion, wow, Rio de Janeiro, Marcelo. People crazy. Yeah. Yes, I understand.
Yeah, look at him go. There's that
Between
blue jersey you were talking about, Marcello.
Yeah.
between Saving Private Ryan, Interstellar, and The Martian, the US has spent a lot of money on rescuing Matt Damon.
I love
Yes,
this
they
show
have.
about this. Yes, I love Molly. It's one of the best. Yes, it's one
Oh,
of the
it's
best.
I'm thinking
memes.
Matt Damon should probably go to the moon for real at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I
I
remember
just
They'll
saw
film the
saw a review of the top movies about space. Top 100.
yes.
Of course,
Mars.
number one is 2001: A Space Odyssey. Guess what number two is?
The Martian?
The Martian.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
number two.
Because The Martian is amazing and it's so
The book is really good too, and it goes into a lot more.
Yes.
A lot more stuff happens in the book that's also really fun and
I-
scary. So
The book is always better than the movie. Even
Yeah,
Jaws
Yes,
has stuff
yes.
that's
Did a good
better than
job.
the movie.
ever the book are better than the movies.
the movie did a pretty good
Starting-
job, but there's just more
Starting
stuff
from the
in book.
Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, don't even, that's not
Yes,
even
yes.
like it's.
I
so
love the
different.
movies,
Well, in
but
that
the
case,
books
the book is
better.
way longer than the movie.
Yes,
Like 7 or 8
absolutely.
chapters.
Para o Load
Absolutely.
Passion here in Brazil, in all the Brazilian games, nobody works. Every schools, stores, everything is closed. And
Everything's
after
closed.
the game, nothing. Everybody celebrating. You
Similar
do
in
nothing
Argentina.
in the days
yeah.
of the games of Brazil here.
Yes, we
Wow.
are crazy.
Yeah, in the
Marcelo, we
US,
are
everyone
crazy.
went to a different sport. We did
No,
follow
no.
for a while, but then after the US got eliminated, we went home and started watching college
No,
sports.
yes,
Back to football.
Back
You
to
can
football,
cheer for
yeah,
Brazil
back
now.
to American football, back to college football.
Go Michigan,
we
go.
have short-term memories in the US. We haven't
I-
quite made it to the we were hopeful for this particular national team because they were getting further and further, but then didn't quite make, there's more to go.
Yeah, but I think
and-
that you're what the kids are liking and loving and love every time more soccer, the football,
Yeah.
because they are soccer in United States, football in United States, starting with kids and especially for kids and girls, boys and girls, and especially in girls. The girls are excellent playing football, and in United States have a great level of woman soccer, and it's in the world. It's going to be one of the best team in the world of women's soccer, and this is something that each 4 years, maybe I saw more passion this World Cup.
Yeah.
The last one or the two World Cups ago, and this is something that don't have return. Without return, maybe into World Cup more.
Yeah.
US
That's
going
good
to the fourth final, the passion of the nervous, and yes, only wait.
Yeah, a lot of people play here, especially kids, but nobody really
Especially
follows
kids,
it after
yeah.
they
There's
stop in
something
high
called the
school,
soccer mom or soccer
Yeah.
dad that's here.
Yeah.
The soccer man, yes, it's a
Lots of kids
culture.
play
It's a
here.
We do
culture.
have it. We have
Nobody
it as a
follows it.
major league sport, and it's getting its support from somebody. But yeah, so it's still growing.
You just wait. I
This is
think,
growing. The most
it's
important
growing a little
thing.
more now than it in the States than it
Yes,
had.
absolutely. Something that we need to change in Argentina about football is the violence. because it's in a stupid thing that you can't go with your family. Many people go with the family, and many games are safe. But in the most important games that you like to go, finals, or you say no, it's not safe, and this is ridiculous. This is a problem of politics. For many, talking about Lord of the Ring, Viggo Mortensen, he grew in Argentina, and he's a fanatic, a totally fan of San Lorenzo de Almagro, a local team in Buenos Aires. And he's very concerned about the violence in the football, and he is an activist about here in Argentina when he came to CIPER and talk about against the violence, because it's totally stupid. And for example, my kid play rugby. Rugby is totally insane, and you can get without protection. It's like American football, but without protection.
Without protection.
Without protection.
So
And my kid
bleeding with the crown of your real head.
Yes, but it's a gentleman sport. Never. They are pay attention to the referee, or the people never. It's totally private. The fanatics never. It's if a club fight with another, talking about the hooligans, and say no, it's totally provided, and you can lose 1 year in the championship in your club. And this is something that they have totally different rules. The sport is 10 times violence than the football play, but they are gentlemen. And when they are something that my kids say, come on, in rugby you are how do you say, you're all time you are knocking with another guy,
They get it all out on the field.
It's the same. They say, oh my.
So really
in
quick,
soccer,
I have an idea.
In soccer is football, something that they are great actors, and they are showing, watching the referee to say, okay, it's penalty. Okay.
So circle back to astronomy now.
Well,
going back to astronomy.
Sorry,
I have an idea for
I'm
contact
not.
astronomy.
Thank you.
Hear me out.
Molly.
We
Thank you, Molly.
can do full contact astronomy.
That's right. I had to let you guys get your FIFA
Yes,
But,
out
A
here.
challenge to
what
you
is
can
important
spot
for-
the object first, and you can either try and spot the object in your scope, or you can go knock down other scopes and then go try and spot it. The winner gets a point, and you have to go through 6 objects in the night sky. So it's
sorry,
we call it full
that.
contact astronomy.
Yes.
I don't know
What
if
is
it'll catch
important
on.
here, here in Brazil, I talk about football. When I was young, I played football every day. Yeah, because we call football here in Brazil. Yes. And but what I think that is very important that we are fighting here in Brazil is that the scientists have the same recognition as the players has here. This is what is important here for our country, that we are fighting here. And this is problems of our culture, but I hope one day you have astronomers and scientists, every kind of science here, had the same recognition by the society here that we have for the players. No? They are millionaires.
I think the interest is there. We do get large crowds, and people are amazed when they see things. Things like the moon or Saturn, Scott, you were talking about it. And lots of people do come out. Now, not as many as for the sports fervor, but we do have some crowds, and it can be an amazing thing.
Yes.
So it's
we organize an event here. We have 10,000 people to see the eclipse here.
That's amazing.
Crowds for astronomy in Brazil are crazy. It is really something.
That's amazing.
Yes, something that we Brazil and Argentina have a huge astronomy community. I know totally because I receive a lot of time people that in our stores, when people that coming from Brazil, and automatically when they watch telescope in our windows, they came, and from any city in Brazil, they have their own astronomy clubs, and it's something that between Argentina and Brazil, of course that Chile, of course that yes, I have a huge community too, but especially in Brazil and Buenos Aires, the kind when Brazil north of is an area without big mountains or without the typical weather that you can expect in our area or south of Brazil, because it's rainy, it's humid, not unfortunately now, but we think that we are more interested because really we love science and the kind of culture in Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, Uruguay. It's great that that we have something that we recognize about curiosity, something that I can see when Marcelo show the activities with the kids. I can feel the same the curiosity, you know, and this is something great. Of course, that we have more money and investment in football than science, but we the best way is going to continue make these kind of things. Well, something that I can if I have time.
You have time now. This is your time.
Short time. Yeah, short time only. I can show you. Let me check because I am in a computer with two screens, and maybe I feel a little well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sorry that I can change something that I don't know if I have. Sorry, I need to check to share my screen. Something that I thought that I had. Well, okay. Well, first of all, I can show you. The first thing that I think that you can see this nebula.
Yes.
Okay. This is the single takes, the single likes of last week of Tarantula Nebula. Something interesting in Tarantula Nebula is that it's not a nebula in our galaxy. If not, it's in large Magellanic Cloud, and Molly say yes. I say okay, and it's interesting because it's a most long away nebula in the southern hemisphere that we can see, and it's I'll change to the final image here.
How long was that exposure?
Well, here you have the each light that I show you, each frame had 1 minute only in 400 as ISO only 400.
Okay.
Because my camera is a little old and start to make a lot of noise over the 800 ISO, and something that you can change when you have a reflex camera without cooler, you know. It's something that I prefer to recommend is use a lower ISO if you can, use a little more longer exposition.
Mhm.
Something that work better. Here, the quality is not so good because you have we had a really huge wind in the rooftop, and it's not the quality that I showed you in the last Orion Nebula. It's I like to repeat again this nebula because it's a target that I consider really interesting. You know, it's a nebula that is very far away in a satellite galaxy of our Milky Way. We can make a better picture. But despite this, you can see many details, and really you have a lot of different stars, and it's really interesting to make maybe here, for example, I have only 18 minutes of exposures, and it's really a low quantity of time for this nebula. But my idea is repeat this target of this nebula with 1 hour. In 1 hour in this ISO, I think that it will be much better. And another thing that I have in for processing, maybe I'll show you later in the end of the Global Star Party the final image, but I can show you an individual take here. You can see the zoom node. I think that, sorry, is here. Okay. You can see 47 Tucana. It's the cousin of Omega Centauri cluster. 47 Tucana maybe don't have two black holes, but maybe have one. I'm proud when Molly say yes, because thank you, Molly. Yeah. No. If you explain more about this, I totally appreciate totally this. But it's very interesting that that really in Omega Centauri and 47 Tucana, the kind of clusters are surprisingly interesting. Omega Centauri for me something like is the core, is a naked core of an old galaxy, is something that is mind-blowing for me. I don't know if 47 Tucana it's this kind of core of on our galaxy. I think that no, it's different, but it's a cluster of around 10,000 stars. I don't know more to explain about this, but I'll processing this picture for tonight, and maybe if I send you the picture, or I'll still communicate to show the final process, if you like. And this is so, I'm sorry. And I have something more that is our work in Friday and last Saturday. Let me see if I can show you something more that is. Well, maybe next time. I prefer prepare we have an activities in something that we call it the La Noche de los Libros, we put some first light telescopes for to show the people stars, especially the moon, Mars, and Jupiter. The people coming to watch by telescope, and we use the first light 130 Newtonian, first light 80 millimeters refractor. Both models over EXOS 100 mount. The telescopes was really very helping. Was very interesting because the operators. I was at Friday showing in one telescope for visual, and another telescope with a planetarium camera for Jupiter, Mars, Moon, in a big screen. Not this time, not for watch football. If not planets.
Oh, you can use television screens for something other than football?
Yes. Sure. It's incredible, but yes. And
hey, I never watched FIFA until this year. Okay, so this is my first experience. My wife is from Honduras, and she's teaching me soccer. So I'm trying to relate it all back to astronomy, because everything's part of the universe, right? So
absolutely, yes. And really, I was in Friday with the people. We received around 400 people watching by telescope, making a long tail of people. And Saturday, the volunteers. I was not on Saturday in this event, but I could give them support to use the PCM-A system of the EXOS 100, and they started to say, "Okay, I understood." And they use it, and they received 600 people to watch by telescope. Was a success. Was something very, very nice. But I don't know. Next Global Star Party, I'll show a presentation of these activities. Well, I don't have any more tonight.
Okay.
Yes.
Go Argentina.
Go Argentina. Yes. No. Yes. We are suffering this Friday again with Netherlands. But okay, it's the life,
So here's some response here. Tarek in the UAE says he's a Brazil fan himself. Okay. He says he wants to see the football nebula or soccer cluster out there in space. And he says maybe that running man by Orion is actually a football player.
Running man, I think.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. Yes.
So M27.
And Molly says that the dumbbell nebula has the football shape on top of the hourglass. You can see it visually under very dark skies and larger stars, although it's more American football shape.
Yes, many. Sure, many kids say that exists in the moon, in Messi in the moon. I don't know. Yes,
Yeah, that's right.
Yes,
why not?
People. It's incredible. A lot of people from any part of the world talking about Messi, and this is it's a craziness. I saw a video where the people, another team, the Australian team, soccer's player, started taking pictures with Messi Come on, it's you.
Oh
It's a
yeah,
crazy, it's a passion, it's incredible. Or something like this. It's a passion like astronomy.
sure, of course, of course.
Yeah.
And finally, Beatrice Hines in Belgium says maybe soon a new small round nebula will be discovered near the Running Man Nebula, the football nebula. That's
The
right.
football nebula, yes. We need to put
It's
this.
coming, folks, to a galaxy near you. So,
Yes.
okay. Well, thank you so much, Caesar. Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thanks-
You're welcome,
Thanks
Scott.
for
It's a
coming on, and
pleasure,
good luck.
really.
Good luck in the FIFA.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So up next, we're going from Argentina to Brazil. Okay, and of course, Marcelo Souza is here with us. He is a professor in Brazil, and he leads an amazing group of young people, actually people of all ages, to discover the universe down in South America. He holds a international space and astronomy event that I've attended myself, both virtually and in person. And I hope to make it down there in person, in the next year or so. That would be really great. But this time, Marcello is also a cosmologist by training, and he's going to be talking about general relativity. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Marcello.
Thank you. It's what? Thank you very much for the invitation, Scott. It's a great pleasure to be here. And I don't know if everybody knows, we have problems with Argentina with football. It's not a calm relation that you have with them.
Yes.
For us, the best team is Brazil.
That's
Let's
right.
see what will happen in the World
But
Cup.
you got your NASA shirt on right now, so
Yes,
right?
yes, but the Brazilians here.
Okay.
Yes. Excellent.
And
Brazil's always on the heart.
Yes.
Let's see what will happen. But I will talk now a very short presentation about some aspects of the general relativity. That is what we need to consider when we analyze big objects, like big galaxies, the influence. Then we can't use the gravity that we use that was developed by Newton, Isaac Newton, and we need corrections that was made by Einstein. And I will show some ideas associated with the changes and the ways that we see the world. We have a poet, a Portuguese poet, that he said something that we use until now. He said what we consider as the humanity. The universe is not my idea, but my idea of the universe, that is my idea. This is a quote that's very famous. The name of the poet is Fernando Pessoa. That is the most famous Portuguese poetry. And we have some ideas now how that we change for a system with we have accelerated differentials. And here one of the basic principles is the equivalence principle, that we can, if you are in the surface of a planet, is a very short region where you can consider you have a uniform gravitational field, and if you have another person traveling in space with an acceleration that is the same of the gravity acceleration of the planet, and if you don't have windows, you don't have conditions to say if you are in the surface of the planet or if you are moving in the space, because the effects that you feel are the same. If you leave some object, they will fall with the accelerator of the gravity in both systems. Then this is the idea of the equivalence principle. Then system that is with uniform acceleration is they have is equivalent to the influence of the gravitational field, the uniform gravitational field. And another thing that's important for us is when you say that you want to measure the distance between 2 points, right? Generally we consider the Euclidean geometry, that we consider that you are in a plane region. Then, but we live in a sphere, right? In a globe that is the Earth. Then, if you want to measure the distance between 2 points in the surface of our planet, of other planets on the moon, you need to follow the curvature of the region. Then the distance of 2 points is not a straight line in the surface of a planet, because it's a curved planet. And only locally that you can consider that you can use a straight line to measure this distance. Is an approximation that works well when you have a small distance between the 2 points. And to talk about the general relativity, we need to talk about the changes in geometry. Euclid's, I don't know if this is correct pronunciation in English, but Euclid's, almost 300 years before Christ, he wrote the elements that is the base of geometry. In this book, you have definitions of a point that you don't have parts, a straight line that is something that you have a distance without space, here a surface, and have the postulates, the 5 famous postulates. I have here in English, sorry because it was in Portuguese, but here are the 4 postulates. A straight line segment can be drawn joining any 2 points. This definition of a straight line. Any straight line segment can be extended indefinitely in a straight line. Giving any straight line segment a circle can be drawn having the segment as radius and one endpoint as center. All right angles are congruent, and the problem that you have is with the 5th postulate that says this: if 2 lines are drawn with intersects assert in such a way that the sum of the inner angles on one side is less than 2 right angles, then the 2 lines inevitably must intersect each other on that side if extended far enough. This postulate is equivalent to what is known as the parallel postulate. So 2 straight lines indefinite will be parallel. But you don't have proof of this postulate as a theorem. Then, to analyze this postulate, it was necessary to develop a new kind of geometry that's called the non-Euclidean geometry. Then you have many people that contribute, like John Wallis. You see here, Euclid's, we were talking about 300 years before Christ. And you only have changes in these ideas in the 17th century, with John Wallis, with Giovanni Sacheri, and the famous one that is Gauss, in the 18th century, and the Bolyai, Lobachevsky, and Riemann. They developed a new kind of geometry that you can deal with curved surface. That's what we need. I will show when we talk about the universe. And for this new geometry, you change the 5th postulates. You have 2 kinds of the open geometry, the closed geometry. You have many different interpretations that you can make. You have the geometry Lobachevsky, Riemann geometry. And what you have, if you want to measure the distance between two points, like here, you have a point here that you have coordinates x, y, and z, zeta. And the distance of 2 points here, you have to have the first coordinate square the square root of the second coordinate, square root of the third coordinate, sum them, and then if you have the square root, you have the distance between these 2 points. This is in the Euclidean geometry. But when you want to measure the distance between 2 points in a curved region, we have a different kinds of expression, mathematical expression to make these measurements. And you need a new kind of mathematics. Here you have an element here that's called a tensor, that I will not talk about this, but with this expression, you can measure, you can produce an expression to measure the distance between 2 points in any region with any curvature. Like this one. You need to follow the curvature of the surface of the region of the space that you analyze. Then there's something that I talk about, the equivalence principle. And this is the idea associated with this new vision of the universe. Here you have an apple, and you have two small persons here, very small persons here, and surface of the apple. And one say to the other, let's walk in parallel, ever parallel between us. Then when they begin to walk, they begin to be closer. But they don't know why they are being closer, because they don't know the geometry of the surface. Then what they can imagine, that you have a force that is making them to be together, to be closer. But if you know the geometry of the surface, you see that you don't have a force acting here. It's because of the geometry. If they walk in this direction that they are walking, they will be near every time that they are walking. Then Einstein, with this idea, they imagine also that we don't know the topology of the universe. And then you have an equation that associates the geometry of the universe with the distribution of mass and energy of the universe. In one side, you have the distribution of mass and energy, and the other side, geometry. Mass, energy, and energy are the same thing. And with this idea, he made a prediction that the sun, any mass, can change the curvature of the space-time. I'm talking about the four-dimensional space-time. And if you imagine the influence of a star, like the sun, this star will change the geometry of the space-time. And then what happens is this. When you have the lights that come from a star to us, if the sun is between the star and our planets, the lights follow the curvature of the space-time. And when you look from the Earth, we imagine that the star is in a different position. When you compare with the moments that the sun is not between the Earth and the star. But how that you can prove this, or how that you can test this model, is only possible during a solar eclipse, because this is the moment that you can see the stars that are near the sun, are behind the sun. Then the first test was made in 1919 here in Brazil, in Sobral, in a region, and also in the Prince Islands in Africa. And this was the moment that the results, this is the original picture of the stars. Then they compared the position of the stars when the sun was not here. And the measures were according to the results obtained by the Einstein equations. Then this made Einstein very famous. And these are the results of you have two British scientists that coordinate and organize the missions to make the measurements. Here in Brazil was Andrew Cromley that was responsible to organize the expedition, and in the Príncipe Island was Sir Arthur Waddington. But the best results were from Brazil. And in the city of Sobral in Ceará, they have a museum to celebrate these moments. That's the Eclipse Museum. They have a monument in honor to the eclipse. And also, if you have the lights, you can imagine a galaxy, a very distant galaxy, and between us and another galaxy, you have this galaxy. Then the lights, the effects of the curvature of the lights happens in many directions, different directions. Then you have image like this that you call gravitational lens. Then you have image, these lines that you see here are images of galaxies that are after, when you look from the Earth, galaxies that are nearest us. And if you have in many directions, you have something that you call the Einstein cross. It looks like a cross, but these 4 images that you see here are virtual images of the galaxy that is behind this one that is in the center. And we have the Einstein rings also. You have the effect of the change of direction of light in many directions, and it looks like a ring. Then we have now what Einstein imagined, that this is fantastic because he imagined that this could happen from the results of his equations, and then they made the measurements to prove these results. Then it's something that's fantastic. Here is the image of Einstein. Well, this is a short presentation about the idea of general relativity. And this is very important to us because it is a fantastic model, and it is the best model that we have to analyze these effects that I showed here. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Marcelo. Thank you very much.
And
I don't know that everybody could follow the math, but I think that it was a great presentation. Thank you so much.
And I hope everybody will share from Brazil.
Well, I put on another shirt for my presentation, a different Michigan shirt.
Maybe one day, Michigan will be at the FIFA Cup. You never know. So,
well, some of the players from the soccer team may wind up on the FIFA Cup. I know Michigan has a pretty good soccer program. Because it's not as big as the football or basketball or even the hockey program, we don't hear much about where the athletes end up. But interesting enough, Marcello, your presentation, and you talked about the star being visible during the total solar eclipse. And we may not think of it often, but with the upcoming solar eclipse in 2024, there may be an opportunity to redo the experiment for ourselves.
Yes.
Looking for a starlight from a star that is technically behind the sun, but the light is being bent by the sun's gravity. That's something to write down and keep in mind.
You need to have the same grouping of stars, I think, was the point.
You'd have to map the group of stars before, like you said, before the sun ends up in that part of the sky, and then see if one of those stars, has moved over or, is on the side of the sun, in calculates position. It sounds like an interesting experiment.
Adrian, if you get the chance, you're not far from Yerkes Observatory, and in their plate vault that they have there, and I believe it still may be in their plate vault. They may have moved it to University of Chicago, but they had the recreation of that experiment done in the 1950s. And when that experiment was run, the telescope that was in Brazil, and then another telescope. There were two telescopes. One was, I forget the island that they went to. Marcello, you probably know that name. Which island did
For the
they?
eclipse.
For the eclipse,
in
yeah, in 1919.
Prince
Yes.
Island of Prince in Africa.
Right.
That's
And so they had two telescopes.
Portuguese.
And there was a little tiny disagreement between these two plates, okay? And
Yes.
for years, until 1950, okay, from 1919 until 1950, there was still controversy over it. Now, in 1919, they said conclusively that Einstein's theory was correct, and there was big fanfare, and this really made Einstein super famous, okay, at the time. But there was still some question. That question was laid to rest in 1950 by the recreation of that experiment, and that plate, that very important plate, is in the possession of Yerkes Observatory. So, and I got to see it, so it's kind of interesting to take a look at. But you're right, Adrian. This could be recreated, and probably recreated by amateur astronomers.
Yeah, it's as long as I'd have to go to the exact spot where I wanted to view the total solar eclipse to get that sky prior to going there when the sun ends up in that part of the sky. So you'd have to be careful about how you do it. I could take a picture of the sky in Michigan and then go to Toledo, and it would be close, but there would still be a little bit of inaccuracy. It makes for an interesting experiment. The problem with going to Toledo also is, will it actually be sunny that day? You know, will there be clouds in the sky? I think a lot of folks from this area are planning to go to Texas, where there's less chance of a cloudy sky to view it. So
weather. I don't know
weather is a factor in April in the Midwest latitudes in the States. So we have to worry about those.
I don't know if you know about the history, but here in Brazil, when they were preparing to observe the eclipse in 1919, the sky was with a lot of clouds before the beginning of the eclipse. And
the clouds cleared in time.
Yes, in the moment of the eclipse, the clouds.
That's good when that happens. Yeah. So Scott, are you ready for?
We are all ready for you.
Ready for me to take?
We are all ready for you.
I've been trying to take over Star Party to hold Star Party long, and we've had some great presentations.
We have.
I really like David Eicher's his new segments, because he mentioned that as astrophotographers, we tend to shoot the same things over and over again, and just try and massage the data a little bit differently so that it, there's more detail.
That you're doing it somehow different or better than all your predecessors, but and there's nothing wrong with that. But the magazine, especially the magazine, does want to show new things that, or what would seem to be new to a lot of amateur astronomers. And amateur astronomers now are learning how to get the reach by doing these incredibly long stacked and tracked. It's not uncommon now to have people doing 60, 80, and 100-hour combined exposures, so and when they do that, they are pushing really beyond the limits of what there was before, so.
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and share my screen. I'll start a presentation here soon, but I wanted to just go along that line. Something like this to me is a unique way to present the total eclipse. And I know I presented this like that the last Global Star Party, but for me it's the variety of, and then it's also the
that's beautiful
look. It's the unique look into our universe. This, of course, into our solar system with the backdrop of stars in the galaxy here. And as you know, as sharp as I can get this moon, sharp enough so that it looks the way that you see it in a pair of binoculars. It's I think that this is what makes different types of astrophotography, even if it's moon photography. I think it's something that that makes things more interesting. I mean, it's for astrophotographers that are starting, being able to get these sorts of shots, and even this image I use as a background, seeing which I'll be covering this section of the Milky Way, and I'll be covering in a little ways, tying my presentation back to the stellar wind theme that we have going, but seeing things in a different light. This was the image that David Eicher shared on his social media, and I've got many more that I should be sharing with him as I go. But what I want to do is talk about, and you're going to see when I start this presentation, Milky Way photography is one of my most favorite things to do. And I prepared a presentation about just what I see when I shoot the Milky Way, the different parts. And when you talk about shooting the same thing over and over again, I'll go into that in this presentation. This core right here, most landscape astrophotographers, night photographers, that tends to be what we keep seeing over and over again as a backdrop to something else in the foreground. And I want to go ahead and get this started. Let's see if, okay. Let me stop sharing for a second because I'm sharing the wrong screen, or maybe I can pull this. Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I have 3 screens. So I'm going to pick the right screen to share. The screen I'm going to share,
It gets confusing.
is screen 3. And I'm going to see if I can do this from the beginning. Share. And now if I do this and I click from beginning, let's see if it will. Oh, okay, here we go. All right, so let's start beginning with 4 sides to the northern Milky Way. So this is how we see the Milky Way. Marcello and Cesar see some other parts to this Milky Way, which I would call region 5 and region 6. Region 5 being the area around the Southern Cross and Eta Carinae and the coal sack, and the 6th region below Orion, where you can see the Magellanic Clouds. The connection leads past the Southern Bulge, past Eta Carinae, and on into, for the Southern Hemisphere, your upside down Orion. And the of course the Tarantula Nebula, I believe, Cesar, that's in the large Magellanic Cloud or the small?
Sorry, I couldn't listen the last. The Tarantula Nebula is in the big in the large Magellanic Cloud, and the 47 Tucana is in the small Magellanic Cloud.
Magellanic.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, those are 2 of my favorite objects that I haven't seen for myself yet, but thanks to Global Star Party, Cesar, Marcello, and Maxi have shown them. Nico, who wasn't here tonight. So let me go ahead and blaze through the sides. So I have where to see all 4 sides. For those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, you could say all 6. A Bortle 4 sky reading allows you to see naked eye parts of the Milky Way the galactic band. When it shines near the end of nautical twilight, you are in a high Bortle 2/Bortle 1 zone. The Bortle 3 zone, it appears, but it appears after you're in astronomical darkness. So here in the northern hemisphere, we've got the galactic core, which the northern part of this shows up at my latitude. So mid latitudes 40, 41, 42, 43. The number in mid latitudes between Scorpius and Sagittarius. One of the DSOs that we just heard from Molly, M16, is the dot that I'm pointing at in the arrow. We heard about how many light years across. So let's get an idea of how big this thing really is. We heard about how many light years across, 4 light years for the pillars of creation. I'm not sure they're even a pixel in this dot that's right here. That is the visible part of the Eagle. The Eagle Nebula shows up here. And so if that's so many light years across the entire thing, and then you've got this huge structure. So we talk about 100,000 light years to go across. Just to go across the face of this is how many light years? And it can be mind-boggling when you think about just how large the structure is, which explains why we can see it so well, even from the outskirts of the galaxy, from our planet. This thing is huge. Other parts of the region, the Cygnus region, we call it. Here is Cygnus. You can see the North American Nebula in miniature, and the Satyr region, which is the middle dot. Here's Cygnus, the main stars of Cygnus. The Summer Triangle, these 3 bright stars, Vega, Deneb, and Altair, is here. And you see this region of the Milky Way. Now, when you look up from the city, you don't see this huge rift, and you definitely won't see these things. But at a darker sight to the naked eye, you begin to see these. Even if you don't see the colors, you begin to see the structures here. And I call it's the next brightest region of our home galaxy. Now, if I were to look at Eta Carinae, that the region in there, I would suspect the brightness would be similar, because Eta Carinae is at least as bright, if not brighter, than the nebula here, North American Nebula. So moving forward to this region, which I don't know if it's imaged as much, and it ought to be, because there's the Andromeda Galaxy and there's M33. I think this is NGC, and I forget the number. I don't think it's 752. I think 752 is somewhere else. But here you have the double cluster, the heart and the soul, and on into the HA regions in Cassiopeia. The bubble is around here somewhere. This region of the Milky Way starts to become faint in fainter parts of the what I mean to say is if you are in an area where the sky is not as dark, it's harder to see this region. You generally just see Cassiopeia. And if you get to at least the Bortle 4 site, Andromeda, this entire galaxy, 2.4 million light years away, begins to show up as a faint little fuzzy patch. And you have to get somewhere really dark before this starts to show up as a faint fuzzy little patch. That's the Andromeda region. Because we're in the northern hemisphere, we see that year round, just like we see the Cygnus region here, because that rolls year round. And the Orion region, the region that I call the skies up region, because Marcello and Scott were gracious enough to put an image of this on the front cover. This is a similar image I took this year in 2022. This region is just loaded with dust lanes, dark nebulae, but it's the faintest region of all, and it's harder to see. And here's Orion. If you've listened to talks by Kareem Jaffer, you'll find that in some cultures, indigenous cultures in the US, this was known as the winter maker. Whenever you saw these stars, you knew that winter was coming. And so I've dubbed it, and you'll see in the slide later, the winter maker section of the galaxy. So if we go through, here in the north, we call it the summer Milky Way because it's summer for us. Cesar and Marcello will beg to differ.
Yes,
The months.
the winter Milky Way.
It is
yes.
the winter Milky Way.
Yeah.
And I talk about that a lot because this is a great show to, it's a good platform to just let everybody know here in the Northern Hemisphere, we've given some colloquial names to these things. It's good to be aware that there's an entire globe and that the sky looks different around the globe and the climate is different around the globe. So when we call it the summer Milky Way, it may make sense to us, but Cesar, Marcello, anyone in the Southern Hemisphere, they know differently. They've grown up differently. This is not summer for them. It's cold. They have a jacket on. Imaging the rest of what we can't see is what they can see down there. So
yes, maybe in Brazil, Marcelo can use less.
Yeah, closer to the
low,
equator.
yes.
Here's winter is your summer.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a
in
little
the north of
warmer
Brazil, yes.
in Brazil, but
not in all Brazil, because Marcelo, sometimes in the south of Brazil, do you have a little of snow in places near to our north? Yes, because it's very continental.
In the southern region of Brazil is cold. But where I live here, that's near the Capricorn Tropic, it's not so cold.
right.
Yeah.
Only in the mountains. You have here in the mountains is very cold.
Yes. So this part of the Milky Way, the little bit that we get to see sometimes, this is the beginning of the southern bulge. And so for those in the Southern Hemisphere can visualize what's next, what comes that we can't see below ground. But and that's what I wrote here. We'd see the rest of the southern bulge. We'd see the region leading to Alpha Centauri, Crux, the coal sack, the Toucan. And this should say Small Magellanic Cloud, because that's where the 47 Tucanae is. So this, I think the constellation is Toucan, and is that the constellation where the Small Magellanic Cloud line of sight is from that constellation? Or no, I'm not sure.
The name of the constellation where is the Small Magellanic Cloud?
Yeah.
I think that is well. I need to.
I would have to look too.
Yeah.
I know there's a constellation called Toucan.
Are the typical name of? It's not Tucana, but I think that is. Let me find, because it's yes.
It's the name of a galaxy.
Where is yes? But the name of the constellation I don't remember.
We would look that up. So this
now
slide will probably change, because I do want to include this second largest globular cluster that we can see.
Centauro is of Omega, but Omega Centauri is not in the area of the large and small Magellanic Cloud.
Right. It's further. I think it's closer to this bulge that we can't see here. Which you can't see my arrow here. Down in here is where it would be. But
yes, I think that is west south. Okay. It's not Octantis, but where is Hydra? La Hydra. Hydra.
Okay.
In both Tucana and Hydra.
In yes, and small
In both.
Magellanic clouds. Yes,
In
yes.
both.
Maybe I can show.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. Oh, my out of focus. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll end up changing that other slide then in the not so distant future. But yeah, so as I'm going through here, a lot of the images I'm showing now have this part of the core and then a bit of the galactic arm with M17, M16. This is a sharpless object here. This is the small Sagittarius cloud. The large Sagittarius cloud is this region right here. And this tends to be the backdrop for a lot of Northern Hemisphere landscape artistry, beautiful images. The beauty of this part of the galaxy. I would say it can be matched when you look at the other regions that we can see, but this is definitely the brightest. Lots of dark nebula here. When you image, you try and get this dark nebula that really brings out contrast in the images. Now, that was all from out west under very high Bortle 2 skies. You can very high Bortle 2 skies with what I believe is a 2-minute exposure here. This is a 2-minute exposure as the Milky Way rises, and there's haze, and you can still see some of that detail at my latitude, but you just have to catch it on a clear sky. And look at all of what's visible here. This is the Scorpion. The stars come down just below this tree line to here. So the prawn, I keep forgetting that I've got some different, here are the stars of the Scorpion coming down. So the prawn nebula is here. The cat's paw and the lobster claw and other things that as this part of the Milky Way continues to roll in the Northern Hemisphere, this stuff disappears. The further south you go, the longer it stays in the sky, the higher in the sky this goes. So because it's bright, you can image the galactic core and these parts around it, even if you're in not such a dark sky. And Scott, this is the sprite that I think I captured somehow while imaging all these various types of light pollution in the clouds.
Oh, yeah.
Notice the color of the cloud of neighboring towns, both Canada and the United States. I'm on.
Oh, I see
on
it.
the coast of
I see
Great
it. That
Lake.
bright little, and then there's that arc. Yeah. That's
and
great.
Then there's this light. So you can image this in most levels of sky, but the darker the sky, the more impressive it looks. And a lot of landscape astrophotographers shoot the Milky Way. You can go onto Instagram right now and see some very amazing shots, and this will be the angle that Milky Way will have. It'll be angled up here. There's also the ability to do a panorama with it. It goes here, and then you shoot the rest of the regions. So let's talk about a different region. And once again, I'll remind you that we're going to get to the part where all of this relates somehow to the stellar wind. Right now, we're looking at a whole bunch of stars. Even when the core is visible, imaging this region, there's a lot that you can see, and it's very bright. It has some features all of its own, including this little round area, which to me has kind of the look of a stadium, and there, it's got a round. I'll show another version of the image. It's a popular region to image, even if it's not the core. The galactic core is down here. And then you get to the Cygnus region, and you've got this area where you've got the Great Cygnus Rift, and then you've got the North American Nebula, which shows up. In the fall, here in Michigan, the trees turn, and so you can capture those fall colors along with the Cygnus region. And as fall, we're having a sluggish turn to winter, so not much snow. But here you see the North American Nebula shows up even in this image where there's a lot of light pollution over here. It still shows up, and going this way, the dark nebulae around Lacerda the Lizard shows up here. And then it is an absolute majestic sight when this region is setting.
I like that green air glow down there.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Look, you've got this mesa.
Very serene.
Yep, it's very serene. That's a 4 a.m. shot at
Wow.
Okie-Tex. And the first time I saw this, I've processed this image, but naked eye, it's still very stunning to see it as it's rolled over to, this is the Northeast here, and it's rolled over behind these mesas, and you could sit and just stare at it for as long as you want. When you're in dark enough skies, it is very impressive. And again, it's, the core is nice, but Milky Way season does not end when the core goes down. And as you can see from this shot, this is it's a winter shot, and you do have to be dressed accordingly. But here in Michigan, you can get lucky and capture, we talk about the stellar wind. Well, one of the effects that we haven't really talked about is aurora, as the Earth's magnetosphere captures it. It may either absorb it or, ionize the atmosphere from the stellar wind, and you begin to see some aurora. And there aren't many ways to see both the aurora and the Milky Way. This is one of the ways you can see it if it happens to be going off toward the north. The North Star is, if I'm not mistaken, this star. I could be mistaken, but I do believe it's either this star or it's over here. Try to plate solve all of these stars, and when you do, you find that the North Star is not far from here, and therefore any auroral activity is also going to be intersecting with this part of the Milky Way. It will also intersect with the Cassiopeia Andromeda region, which I call it that because the constellation Cassiopeia is here, constellation of Andromeda, and there's a galaxy that goes by the same name. There's M33, this star cluster, which I keep calling 752, but I don't know that that's true or not. It is a faint region, but has a few well-known astro targets, visual targets like the double cluster, astro targets like the Heart and the Soul Nebula. And I'll point those out. There's the double cluster here. There's the Heart and the Soul. And
nice.
So those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, our versions of the Southern Cross and Centaurus are Ursa Major, Ursa Minor. Here's the North Star here. Here is what we part of Ursa Major, the asterism, at least most of them. One of the Alcade is missing off to the side. The Big Dipper is right here. At this lighthouse, you've got the Andromeda region of the Milky Way. The Andromeda galaxy is up this way, and we have this region with when I say this way, that way, there's the Big Dipper, there's the Heart and Soul, there's the double cluster, and nightscape artists love to shoot the core. This is another view of the core when I went to the northern part, 43rd parallel in Michigan. There are the two parts of Scorpius. This is in the summer in June. You can still, in the summer, when the main core is out, this region is on the opposite side. And here we have Aurora, which I did not see naked eye, but when I put the camera to it, it picked up the greens and magentas.
That is beautiful. Look at that.
Yes, there's the Big Dipper again. My original reasoning for this shot was simply to give part of Ursa Major some love and this part of the galaxy some love. This in the northern hemisphere, this is one way you can have the Milky Way galaxy, a part of the Milky Way galaxy, and the aurora. And you see these dark clouds. So you know that this is maybe a low Bortle 2, high Bortle 3 zone here. Still beautiful, still dark up here. And yes, I love the picture just for the simple fact I didn't see it naked eye. A lot of you out there still watching this and want to see aurora, if you live to the north, sometimes the aurora is there right under your nose. Stellar wind that we were talking about is coming in. The earth is doing its thing, but unless it's a very high KP level and the magnetic field of the earth is set up right, it doesn't become naked eye, but at a certain level, it becomes camera visible. And, you know, with a 30-second exposure on your camera, you may end up getting these, you know, these pinkish and dark green regions. And you see the difference between the aurora color and some of the sky glow that we're getting into here. We've got sky glow and aurora in the same shot. So that turned out to be, you know, an even more comprehensive shot. And I may edit this later on to brighten these trees a bit, but I'm happy with.
It's like a rainbow that goes across the entire night sky.
And Adrian, is something that you can see. I know that when you go to Finland or to more to the north, you can see over your head the auroras, and it's really magic. But in your latitude, you have in your pictures, but you can see something to the naked eyes, or is something that only appear in your picture?
So in this case, you could not see it naked eye, but when the storm is intense enough, you can.
You can.
So yeah, I will. So that green part that I'm highlighting here, you can see that naked eye if the storm is intense enough. But if it's not, then only by camera would you be able to see it and know that that there's, you know, aurora is visible. And it would be similar to the aurora australis. The difference between northern and southern hemisphere is that becomes the galactic center.
Yeah.
So you get the brightest part of the Milky Way. And
yes, the brighter part is in our of course that it's impossible to our continental part is in South America. Is impossible to see auroras, southern
Australis.
auroras. So yes, australis, because we don't have nothing to the south, despite Ushuaia, our southern city. I know that they never they never watched it because it's not so near to the South Pole.
Yes. Yeah, it's a little
Our
not
maybe
quite.
Ushuaia is like Boston or a little more in latitude.
Yeah. See, we're a little closer to the North Pole. It's kind of mid
Yes, I
latitude.
understand. Yes, yes.
Yep. So sometimes the aurora can
Santa
be
Claus is starting
can be seen on the distant horizon right there, and it's an amazing.
Yes, it's
thing to
amazing.
understand.
For me, it's amazing. Something that I need to know is maybe in this latitude where you took the picture, where you live, because it's for me it's magic. It's something that I have. Sometimes you have
Right.
expectative in your life. Maybe for some people, it's watch the Eiffel Tower. Another people say,
Mhm.
okay, the pyramid. For me, is watching the boreal aurora, and it's
Yep.
something that
Yeah.
is
If you traveled to the equivalent latitude in the south, I think that's when aurora australis would you might possibly catch a glimpse along that horizon.
yes, only
And
for us it's in
I also
Antarctica.
think it's how the earth is tilted as well, whether there's going to be more particles, more solar wind hitting
Mhm.
the southern pole as opposed to the northern pole. So
Yes,
like right now, I think it's more.
absolutely. And the southern pole have a lower solar storms, and we don't have cities near to the.
Yeah, so
It's
it's harder
impossible
to
because
get
it's in
down there to see.
Antarctica. Yes, it's Antarctica. Sure.
Yeah, so that's it.
The
Plan a
more
trip.
near city to the Antarctica is Ushuaia, and you know that it's really far from the South Pole.
Yeah, that's something we.
Ushuaia it's let me see the latitude of Ushuaia.
Yeah, that's something we probably shouldn't take for granted, that our latitude, there's some amazing things we can see, so we don't miss out on everything. And of course we just had the discussion about the star party in the, near the Florida Keys, where some of the southern hemisphere parts of the Milky Way are visible, just not the Magellanic Clouds. So I still have to come to Argentina. I've been working on my passport so that I can
Great.
do that.
You are welcome. Yes, advise me, because I go to the airport to carry you, came to Buenos Aires and start to have fun.
Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so at any rate,
54 the latitude
yep.
of Ushuaia. 54.
Yeah.
54.
So here's a
yes.
region that's coming up that I like to discuss, and let me see if I can. I'll see if I can quickly go through it, because it is rather late. The Winter Maker, Orion. This part of the Milky Way is Orion himself is getting more popular amongst astro imagers and landscape astro imagers, where they're taking a huge section of Orion and all of the nebulae around and posting it as a backdrop for some sort of nature thing. But I like shooting Orion as a part of wide field, and especially during the times we usually go to the Okie-Tex Star Party in Kenton, the zodiacal light becomes real easy to see. Now, this part of the Milky Way, that bright star is in Canis Major. That is Sirius. That is Procyon. That is Pollux and Castor, and then on up Gemini. That may be in fact it is. It's in Auriga. That is Capella. And that, the rest we can't see here, but down here. So next time I'll have to remember to put this on a different screen. Sirius, Procyon, Pollux, Castor, Capella. Down here through these rocks and through the bottom of this
Yeah.
On one side or the other
It's
are
so
the
different
small and
for
large.
me. Yes, I think what? Yes, it's
I'm not sure because this is upside down when you see it,
yes.
but
Mhm.
that's where the Magellanic Clouds would be. If we could see through the Earth, we would see the small and large Magellanic Clouds. They don't rise high enough.
Yeah,
Even down in the Florida Keys, they don't rise high enough
this
come
is
up. So it would be
further evidence that the Earth is round and
is
not
round.
flat.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's I would consider the Magellanic Cloud part of the Milky Way, a region, and the Southern Cross as a region as well. So that's where the entire galactic center and the parts of the galactic arm that we can see all tie together at Orion. If you were able to see it in a continuous circle, and there are some imagers that have gone to the northern and southern hemispheres and created an image like that, it basically runs from Orion through this large and small Magellanic Cloud, through the area with the coal sack, Eta Carinae, the Southern Cross, and Alpha Centaurus, the Centaurus constellation, comes back up and hits the southern bulge, comes back up to the center, and then through the Cygnus region, the Lacerta, Cassiopeia, Perseus, and then on down back to the Orion region. That is the
Yeah.
entire Milky Way. And we see
Yes.
4 regions of it here in the northern hemisphere.
And it's fantastic that you can see in your winter or our summer the Milky Way, the Orion arm, that is beautiful because you are watching outside the galaxy with the arm.
Yes.
And this magic really in our last star party in Catamarca was very nice to watch the Milky Way arm of Orion arm.
Yes.
And it's something that is beautiful. You took a pictures where in your pictures I can see the big nebula. I think that it's
Lambda
not
Orion. Lambda
yeah.
Orionis.
Yes, it is something fantastic because it's so
That's
huge,
beautiful.
vast part
Yeah.
of the sky. You are always concerned in show this part of the sky that is really amazing.
These are the last few slides that I end on, because this is a part of the sky that I would love to see more work done, not just the big bright, the nebula that you can get here. This entire region is kind of my challenge to those of you who do landscape astrophotography, and you frame it against some beautiful foreground areas here. I challenge everyone to shoot this region, and see what we can do with it, because it is an absolute beautiful region. This is that region. I had just shown you the region as it looks in a high Bortle 2, close to a Bortle 1 zone. But when you move forward to Bortle 3 and Bortle 4, you can still get it. There's sky glow, and light pollution glow, but you can still get this dark nebula.
I'll show you if you like after your presentation.
Yep, I only have a couple more
very
slides.
short, small part that the presentation that I don't found. If Scott agree, only 2 minutes, where you can watch the opposite of this. That is a very polluted, maybe Bortle 9 skies, but very enthusiastic people watching the moon and watching the the Mars and Jupiter. But this is
Right.
amazing because the level of different border scales in the same picture is something that you can watch how part of the sky disappear, part of the sky are in amazing what, and you can see something that normally is impossible to see. I think all is from Michigan Lake.
Yeah. And then
This
is the one from the dark
well, this
side.
is from the yes,
Yeah, you can see
Arizona
just how
or
much more detail. And then as I go down, progressively
yeah,
less
because
dark.
they have cities in
Yeah, there's
in the rivers.
city light in here.
Yeah.
More bright city light. So it, and you can see the sky colors a little different too.
Yes.
Back here in the Border One area, it's got kind of a metallic gray-ish blue, but then you go in here, I got sky glow. This is the sky is pretty good, but it's knocked down a couple border levels because of the horizon here.
Yeah.
And then one level below that.
This is the nebula at the center is Lagoon Nebula.
Yep, there's that
no, not this.
This one.
No, sorry, because it's
no, that's not the lagoon. That's
no,
Mars.
no, it's not Lagoon, but
this is Mars.
No,
so
no,
Mars
yes,
is in the center of the Winter
yes,
Triangle. This is taken this year.
Sure,
and Mars is front and center.
Which is, yes, I have I have
this
some
is
pictures
also,
of this.
So these
week.
are very recent photos. That's Mars.
This
so
is
when
Mars.
I took this
yes.
photo, Mars was not to be found.
Maybe 2 weeks ago, or
Mars
maybe
is
1
not
week.
to be found.
Yeah.
But it's here now.
I don't know.
Have an image, in fact, because I did take this region. I'll have to go back through the slides because I may have Mars in a more recent shot.
For me, yes, I understood completely because yes, absolutely. I'll show you the picture in opposite.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and I'll end it here. That's me looking at that region.
Wow.
There's Mars, and Orion is trying to rise.
Maybe have 1 or 2 weeks your picture only. Maybe one week. Because
I'll
Mars,
go ahead and
yes.
Let's see. Stop the share. All right. So
great. Wow.
Yeah. Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Cesar, you were gonna go ahead and show your image, right? I guess, Scott, if it's okay. I don't.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, it's the few pictures that I lost in my presentation because I couldn't show you. You can see I started last week watching talk of my friend astrophysics Gabriel Bengochea in the planetarium city of Buenos Aires, and this is a video of the last Noche de los Libros in San Miguel, and this is the stand of San Miguel Observatory.
There's the moon.
Yes,
That's the big TV that is not watching football right now.
yes, without football, without soccer. Yes, we receive a lot of people that were very interested in is the moon is a live image, and we use Scott. You can see that we use it.
I see.
Yes. To EXS 100, the model of Newtonian the refractor.
Nice.
Very steady.
This was
very
absolutely was very nice. That really we make the polar alignment with a cell phone. We used the telescope the entire night to show image of Jupiter, Mars, and Moon. This is Agostino. Agostino is a specialist in geologist. It's another part of the observatory. This one was really, really very interesting. One telescope, we started with a camera, another telescope to watch. We put another telescope more in another side of a National Geographic telescope, very, very entry level, with 2 volunteers, and the people really enjoy it to see the moon, Jupiter, Mars. Really, really was interesting, an interesting activity.
Yes.
Every year we make this. This year we use this telescope. For us was new. And really, we enjoyed a lot, share with the people, you know. It was a great experience. And here, I don't know if
there's Orion.
Yeah, yes, maybe you can see
And it's
here.
upside down.
Yes, this is in the city. In this area is our ecological park. We was riding in bike with my friends, and in this part you have a bike road, or I don't know how do you say, bicicenda we call it, a road for the bikes in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And this part is a part that is facing to the east, to the river, but this area is full of snake, birds, and it's like it's an ecological reserve.
I see.
And it's very nice because I say, okay, stop, we can make pictures. We ride there 41 kilometers, around 30 miles riding bike. This Sunday at night, afternoon and night, and we stopped to say, okay, I need to stop to take this picture to show with the cell phone. And here you can see the Pleiades,
Yep.
Arcturus, yes,
the
Mars, Orion, yes, and this is why when I watch your pictures, I say, okay, this is in the opposite side.
Yeah. So for you, everything I showed was upside down.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
And this was the things that I was interested in share with you.
Yeah.
Really, really, I enjoyed this, and your pictures are magic. And yes,
Well, I
you
appreciate it.
constantly you renew your collection of pictures, and when I say, okay, are new pictures, because Mars is in the same position that I show you in my picture.
Yes.
And my picture is from this Sunday. Yeah.
Well,
And maybe
yeah,
for
it's
next.
always it's always interesting when the planets make appearances. You can almost tell the year that certain images were shot based on the position of the planets. And,
yes.
And even based on the position of where the moon is, the one image I didn't put in the presentation, but I showed earlier, where the setting, when Orion is setting or getting ready to start setting,
sure, our perception of the things when we love astronomy is different. And I'm taking lessons of yachts, of sailing now. They have to take the lesson in the river. They have you need to take your reservations, by phone, by internet, and many people go when the tide is very low. and particularly in our river, we don't have water. We have really very small quantity of how do you say? I forget the name of depth. It's very very low
Shallow.
depth. Yes,
Shallow.
very shallow because it's a river. Yeah, you know. But the first thing that the different thing that I understand is that I remember where the moon is, and my first thing that I understand, the people told me, when you came here, ever we have water, we have high tides. Yes, because the first thing that I think is see the tables say, because I think in the moon, in the sun, where is, because I love astronomy. I like really and it's not only see because it's not only see the application. If not, first of all, say, okay, I choose the days and the hour where you have where you can found, for example, a new moon over your head. You have a lot of water in the river, you know. And yes, you have, and yes, I started to talk with the people. Say, no, it's not only, and how do you say? Because yes, every time I watch the picture, I say, okay, Mars is here. Yes, you can light. You go to to show.
Well, you can do the same thing with your view of Orion is herald of summer. Yes. Our view of Orion is herald of winter. And in fact, indigenous tribes, one that I put in the name Winter Maker was a it was just recognizing that when that group of stars comes up in the northern hemisphere, we get snow. But you see the same grouping of stars, and it's time to get the sun
kind of throws you off.
Let me tell you something.
So it's just being aware of that difference.
Totally. When I watch the first day that I watch Orion in the sky here in I feel stressed because I know that Christmas is coming, the end of the year is coming. I feel stressed because I say, oh, the year is finishing.
The year's almost over.
Yes. And this year with a World Cup is terrible. Yes. For me. And something that is astronomical, is an astronomical sensation. It's a modern astronomical sensation. You say, well, when you can see Orion, say, okay, I need to finish my objective for this year because the end of the year is coming, is near.
Right.
It's a sensation that for another people that don't think, many people sometimes say, okay, why I can see Orion, the three, the three stars.
The three stars.
In summer or here.
We'll get asked, can we see the Orion Nebula? And say it's not up yet, depending on when the core is visible, the galactic core is visible to us. Well, Scorpion, when the Scorpion's visible to us, Orion is down.
Yes.
And yet, we'll have people come and say, can we see the Orion Nebula? They look at our clocks and say, if you want to be up at 5 a.m. Oh, by the way, the sun's shining through it. But now, there are certain times, especially March and September, where if they come to say you want to see the Orion Nebula, we can say, well, you just have to be up at 4 a.m, but then you'll see it. So there are times when
just
about all 4 regions show up before the sun.
The end of the vacation, for example, for us is absolutely, or for me, feel the end of my kids' vacations where I need to go again. Not now because they are 2 of my 3 kids are really 20. are big
Yeah.
now.
The one
Yes,
that
an
we know
Orion. But
does
it's,
the
I
stuff.
remember they say, okay, oh my God, it's Orion in the afternoon, in the evening of the day, going to the to the horizon, and you felt another things about the time. And this is when you compare the things of the Asian populations, where I say they really watch the stars in another way. Maybe we watch the stars because they say, okay, I you understand that that is time of the Milky Way in summer or winter. We are awaiting for a picture, the different size, the different shape of the Milky Way. But sometimes the feeling is about the time of the year. Okay, I see Orion. I need to put my taxes in. Yes, I need to pay my taxes because it's Orion in the sky. Yes, this is the kind of stress.
It's time.
It's time. Yes, yes, and it's something that yeah, the sensation of the sky are particularly going to show you something in the time. And I am only an amateur astronomer, but with the people that in the past, the Asian people, that all people reading the night sky, because they watch a lot of stars, and they in some kind of things, maybe in some way of things, maybe the Asian people was smarter than the media, the culture media of today, if you think maybe something like this.
And I think we'll cover getting the messages to the media in another Star Party, because we'll have Scott up all night if we talk about how to
That's
reach
right.
the media
Yes,
with accurate information.
Yes,
I
it's time
think
for
the
dinner,
media is getting
folks.
better in different countries, but it is common for some of these things to be over sensationalized and put on the public's mind like a day before the event happens. So that might be another discussion. Those of you still watching and listening may agree or disagree, but astronomy depends on what you can see. So the days don't change. The lunar eclipse didn't change so that it could happen on a clear day. And that's something that, especially here in the States, it's becoming harder and harder to explain to the general public that there are certain things that don't bend to your will. One is whether or not your sports team always wins, and two is whether or not you'll see any meteors where you are.
Yes.
If it's cloudy,
yes,
you're gonna miss it. You know,
you can't imagine all that. Was more difficult explain things to the elder to adult people than kids. Kids in the pictures that I saw, the kids had the right idea of all things. When the kids more than ask me question was more, yes, this is the moon, and this is the part of the moon, and this is, Jupiter, Jupiter, and was okay. The older people like our age, like me, I am 55. Come on, yes, when we lose the connection with the things, this is incredible.
Yeah. Well, Scott, I think that'd be a good
thank
note
you
to
guys.
close us off.
Thank you
very much.
Because Scott is every night of this global surf party is really
and Cesar, I appreciate you and Dr. Marcelo, who had to drop off, because it gave us a chance to sort of explain on a holistic level. Well, here are the four sides we can see in the Northern Hemisphere. For many, I think they'll say, well, that's all there is. I love the fact that we can say, well, no, there's way more than that. And, here's somebody who didn't grow up seeing these regions. There are a couple of regions that you didn't grow up seeing, but you grew up seeing regions that we don't get to see from our latitude here. So it ties it all together. I think that's a wonderful way of explaining exactly what the Global Star
Yes,
Party
yes,
is.
absolutely. I'll prepare with you all that you need at Marcello. It's a place. It's a place. It's a pleasure. It will be a pleasure. Absolutely, yes, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, it's
I
when
can
I started Global Star Party, I was trying to recreate the feeling of a star party, because we were under lockdown during COVID. But after doing, and we've done over 100 of them, we'll be 109 Global Star Parties next Tuesday. What I'm left with is that it's a unique way of doing a star party. It's a unique way. We do have people showing us live images through their telescopes from time to time, all kinds of wonderful presentations. Some of them are very science related, maybe deep science. Some are great descriptions of what we have seen, but maybe we don't know a lot about, so it's really cool to have somebody like Dave Eicher really show us some hidden gems of the sky and tell us what's going on in these areas and the history behind it, And then we have people that give us the feeling and the art of this, Adrian's work is beautiful. These nightscape images are beautiful, but not pure, just art for art's sake. Adrian is learning about the sky. He's exploring the universe through his images. And he's taking us on that journey with him, which is really cool. And he's encouraging and showing other people how to do this, so that's all very interesting to me. And, I get to do it, of course, from my office here at Explore Scientific, but it's been a real pleasure. I will keep on doing them because I think it's important to bring the global audience together. We have also, and when I say global audience, we have people in Europe, in Asia, in the Middle East, northern and southern hemisphere. They're watching, they're sharing, and these shows, of course, are preserved on social media, and people go back and watch them again and again. So, how else could you do this? So. This is the way. So, but being out at a real star party, when I say real star party, you're actually under the sky with your friends. But you can mix these things too. You can have a show like Global Star Party playing in the background, chatting with people that are watching your conversations all over the world while you're observing at night, so this is kind of a cool thing. So if you can switch some of your actual stargazing experience to Tuesday nights, you'd have a better chance of doing that. But our program, of course, is not the only one that's doing this, but we might be one of the longest running ones at this point. So, yeah. So anyways, I really do appreciate you coming on, Adrian, Caesar, Daniel. I see you're back there in the background. So thanks again to the presenters. Thanks again to our audience. This Saturday we were trying to do a astrophotography workshop for planetary astrophotography. It might get canceled off until the following Saturday. The presenter is none other than Christopher Go, who's a world famous planetary astrophotographer. And he wanted to show live, views through his telescope of Mars, but also how he captures Mars with his telescope and how he image processes that. So watch for an announcement either for this Saturday, which would happen, I think, at like 8 a.m., something like that, Central Time. It's going to be nighttime, of course, in the Philippines, where Christopher Go is. And then it's being presented to a class, actually a group in Armenia. But we're going to broadcast it, of course, on social media as well, so people all over the world can watch it. And so that's the deal. Almost every day now, we've been running programs where we take some of the Explore Scientific product line, and the show is that we open it out of the box, we assemble it in front of you, and give you tips on how to use it. So that's something you can watch for. Those are running about 2 p.m. Central almost every day live. And so that's another thing. And then we've got shows that, as I can put them together, called Eclipse Experience. And those shows are to prepare you for the 2023 annular eclipse and the 2024 total eclipse. And so we've got some great people lined up for that. The next one on my list for that is Dr. Ralph Chow, who's a world expert on solar filters and eye safety. So he's out of Canada. So we're looking forward to that. But that's our programming, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Or good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning, good night, and good midday. Good day.
Good day too.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.